What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're having a great weekend here so far. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late, but thanks so much for tuning in on this Saturday night. So, like all the other usual live streams, going to go for about 2 hours. I'm going to give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. And if you would also like that priority answering, there's always a link in the description to join the membership club here. But anyway, I'm happy to see a bunch of you have decided to join in here tonight. So welcome Brian, Truck and Car Guy, Jazz, B. Mitchell, Vishal, Kyle, and Cars, Six Licks, Sweet Man, Luke, and Truck and Car Guy says greetings from Arizona. And Jazz was wondering if I was shaving for the appearance tonight. Definitely not. Too busy to shave, unfortunately, this week. And B. Mitchell says, greetings from the no longer frozen hinterlands. Glad you're able to enjoy some good weather here finally. Let me see. Six Lick says he doesn't have to shave. It just naturally falls off his face every Friday morning. I wish that would certainly make it easier. And Luke says more Pittsburgh bathtub flooding. Yep, we had more flooding here in Pittsburgh. Thankfully, nothing that was really affecting me. But I know a lot of other people, elsewhere in downtown and stuff had some more issues again with the flooding and all that. But thankfully it didn't affect any of us. Thanks for asking. I see Jazz as well. And none of our parents had any issues either. We're all thankfully not in any easily flooded areas. So that's definitely good. Luke says, Professor doesn't show up in 10 minutes. We leave class. There you go. V. Mitchell said, must be double checking the locks on the radiator in the basement to make sure 2 remains captive. To make sure 2 keeps the sump pump going. There you go. And Linda, thanks for joining in as well. And Ace. Cara says, hi, Matt and everyone. Best wishes for a great evening and awesome live stream. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining in as well, Cars. And hope you guys are all having a good week here. Miles says, how are you and Beth doing today? We're doing great, having a good weekend here. It was so nice to have some actual sunny weather here. It was crazy because it's been like nonstop rain for most of the past couple of weeks here. So it's been nice to have some sunshine here. And thanks for joining as well, Hugo. I just hope you had a great weekend. It's been a great weekend so far. Hope the rest of it continues to be good for me and for all of you guys. And thanks for joining in here on a Saturday again. Six Lick says he's stuck on a double ad. Interesting. Not sure why it's stuck on that. I know sometimes, I don't know what browser some of you guys use, but sometimes Safari doesn't like using YouTube very well. And it's like, I got to go to Chrome since it's like Google's thing. And Rochelle says he's loving the Saturday live streams. I'm glad it's working out for you, Rochelle, and hopefully for many others. Hopefully next week we will get back to a Sunday live stream and get back to that as normal here. But Kyle says he likes the Saturday ones as well. I mean, if everyone really loves the Saturday ones, I mean, Saturday night probably is the same as Sunday night as far as convenience. So actually, in some ways, might be slightly more convenient. So if you guys want to keep it at Saturday night, that could potentially be an option. I always just figured everyone was like out doing fun stuff on Saturday night typically, and Sunday night is more of like a chill, stay at home kind of night potentially. So that's kind of why I always defaulted to Sundays, but it certainly doesn't have to be that way. If obviously maybe it couldn't be every Saturday night, but if Saturday nights work better, maybe we can default to that here going forward. Maybe I'll do a poll here and see. Everyone can chime in instead of having to comment here. I'm gonna do a poll and see what you guys think about that. All right. Putting up the poll here, and we'll see what the results are here in a couple of minutes. Luke said, I had fun at my neighbor's kid's birthday today with the nice weather. Yeah, we actually went to a birthday party as well today, and definitely was much better with the nicer weather here. And Miles says, for some reason, Beth reminds me of Ariel Winter from Modern Family. Has anyone asked her about that before? That's a compliment to her. I don't think... of all the like names that have been mentioned, which usually no one really thinks she looks like any celebrity that I remember, but I haven't heard Ariel Winter before. But I agree that's a compliment. So I appreciate that, and I'll pass that on to her there. Matt's asking about Fortnite content. I'm not a Fortniter, if that's a thing. But let me see. Miles says Saturday's better than Sunday for him as well. Brandon says, how's the Mustang? The Mustang is good. I will have some big news, most likely about the Mustang here towards the end of this month, though. So stay tuned for that. And Vishal's cool with Saturday as well. Kyle says YouTube likes to show an ad right before your acceleration scenes on your reviews almost darn every time, every darn time. So I have control over when the ads are shown. So for a lot of the older ones, whenever the acceleration was the big draw, I did usually have one right around there, just because I knew people were coming for that and I didn't want to, miss out on an ad there. But YouTube doesn't always place them. Like I basically can select, like, I want an ad every 7 minutes or so is typically around like when I do it. But YouTube doesn't always have the inventory to show the ads. And depending on if you've just seen a bunch of ads in your last video, sometimes you don't get as many in the next one. And there's, a million different variables that influence, do they actually place an ad there where I'm requesting one? So it's always like a suggestion, like here's the places I would like an ad to go. And they won't do it outside of the specified places unless you can allow YouTube to pick the ad breaks automatically. And in that case, then they will just, pack them in wherever they can. And actually, for some people who watch this live stream, once it's a video after the live, usually YouTube takes a few hours to process that. I don't usually get right onto the video to modify it once it's live, but a lot of people probably get hit with a ton of ads because YouTube automatically defaults to just putting their own ads into the live stream. And it's like a 2-hour stream for these things. It's like 1.5 minutes in, it's like, here's an ad, 3 minutes in, here's an ad. So, YouTube would bombard you way more with them if I didn't have manual control over, like, being like, nope, delete all these ads and let's put one in every 7 to 10 minutes and make it more reasonable as well. But I do try and put it at strategic points, not always like annoying points. I just try and put it at when I'm changing to a new segment in the video, for moving on to fuel economy or whatever, then that's when I'll, put a natural break, things like that. But and let me see. Jordan says, I'm excited that Nissan is going to create vehicles with different looks. Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a great change for them, hopefully. And Vishal said he liked the Sentra review. Definitely an underrated car in the segment, but I'm just not a fan of the feel of the CVTs. Yeah, and not all CVTs are created equal, though. I will say that, some are better than others. Like this week, I'm in the Elantra, which is not nearly as good for the CVT compared to the Sentra, just from a feel standpoint. And there are some that actually are pretty good, and I don't really mind anymore. So it just depends on which company you're talking about, honestly. Hugo says, you guys should come down here to Charleston, South Carolina for a fun weekend. There's tons of cool cars as well. Yeah, my parents actually went down to Charleston not too long ago and really liked it. I believe I was there several years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but yeah, it's any of those beachy towns would be fun for sure. Let me mute my computer here. And Luke says, I like the new 4Runner, but I wish they did a little more to differentiate it from Tacoma. And I see someone else also asking about thoughts on the 4Runner. So yeah, that's something that came out this week, and I haven't discussed that here yet on a live. So personal opinions on 4Runner, it's pretty much what I was expecting it to be and what I was warning everyone, that it was going to just be basically prepare for a Tacoma with a cab on the back, and sure enough, I honestly didn't think they'd change the headlights. So I was like, wow, they actually did a little more than I was expecting. So the different headlights are nice. And it's good they kept the roll down rear window and, all that. My big disappointment, and I should have actually mentioned this in the video, but I was so rushed editing the video that I actually just forgot to mention it, was no manual. There's manual in Tacoma. It would have been really cool to bring back the manual. All the parts are there. Everything else is carried over. So there should be zero development work to put a manual in the 4Runner. And that'd also be a good way to differentiate it. Someone actually commented this in the 4Runner comments section of my video. And it's like, that would have been a great way to differentiate it from the Land Cruiser. And, I will have my thoughts on Land Cruiser. The embargo for that's dropping next week. But just on the publicly available information we already have on Land Cruiser, obviously we know it doesn't have a manual. And so, that would have been a cool way to, in addition to the other things, about Land Cruiser, as far as it's only hybrid max versus, you have the non-hybrid version of the 4Runner available there, so I feel like the manual could have been another key way to differentiate it for the 4Runner, and it's a shame they didn't do that. My only hope is that maybe, how Toyota loves doing new special editions and look at how they did it with Supra, where they added in the manual a few years later. Maybe they thought, hey, let's keep the manual in our back pocket and pull this out if we need to juice the demand a little bit, in a couple of years. Maybe that's when that card will be played. I'm not sure, or maybe they just have no plans. Maybe their research just showed that people were open to a manual Tacoma, but not a manual 4Runner. I don't know, but I have a feeling like those two demographics probably overlap, and if you can justify it in Tacoma, I'm not sure why you couldn't justify it in 4Runner, but I don't have all the inside data, so I'm just being armchair product planner over here. But that was the one big thing. Otherwise, yeah, there were, it's to me, there's not a whole lot of opinion that I feel about it, honestly, because again, it's just Tacoma with a cab in a lot of ways, which again is great, but to me, nothing that's gonna really get my blood boiling one way or the other. And let me see. Miles says, I appreciate the ad control. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's others that, pack them in, really early on in the video, where they do it like every 4 minutes or even less for some people. I mean, some videos we watch, not even like car content, but just general YouTube content where it's like, yeah, they're like a minute and a half in, they're hitting you with an ad. And I mean, it's still way better than network TV. I will say that, for a 30-minute or 30-minute, TV show, it's 23 minutes. And there's 7 straight minutes of ads in a 30-minute little TV show there. So I mean, you see way less ads on YouTube, no matter how badly they're packed in. But it still is, it can be annoying for sure. I certainly get it. And that's why YouTube Premium is a great option for those that want to bypass that. And Vishal said, "Will you review a Jetta this year? I would love to see your take on it in 2024 and how it stacks up to the competition. I know in the Century video you said it isn't the strongest entry in the segment." Yeah, I've requested a Jetta also because it's one of the few that still offers a manual. And I've been asking for a manual one in particular, but I'm open to a regular Jetta as well. Just nothing in the fleet that I've seen yet. But I'm open to it for sure. But yeah, I mean, like you saw in the Sentra comparison, it's not a great competitor. It's just a little pricey. Again, it really, for everything in that segment. I mean, again, the comparison thing is there to give you a baseline of like, by the sticker prices, here is what you're getting. Obviously, there's probably a better deal on a Jetta than there is on a Civic or a Corolla right now. So, that price difference might be irrelevant, and, you might end up getting a really good deal on a Jetta. And if it ends up being the cheapest one out of everything you're shopping with the dealers you're shopping at, then obviously that could tip the scales one way or another. But as far as MSRPs goes, yeah, Jetta only makes sense if you really have to have cooled seats, I think is really the one key thing. But I think everyone else does basically a nicer interior for the most part. Maybe Corolla is a little less plush than Jetta and a little less high-techy, but other than that, yeah, Jetta is just not super exciting to me personally, honestly, compared to all the others out there. Zachary says, how about alternating Saturday and Sunday nights? That's a possibility as well. I see we're pretty well split, so it looks like Saturday is the winner here at 59%, so slight majority there prefers Saturday. So yeah, it's always a tricky gamble of like, I alternate, and then, maybe sometimes people have plans on Saturday, sometimes they maybe have plans on Sunday. It's tough to say. So kind of split pretty close to down the middle, but I mean, Saturday did slightly win. So maybe we will try sticking to Saturdays. And I mean, because it seems like a lot of you seem to be mostly okay with Saturdays, everyone who commented as well. So maybe I will just leave this poll running for the duration of this live stream here and just see if we get any other people that join in later on and see what their thoughts are. But B. Mitchell said, surprised the Toyota didn't get in on the stick shift parade, considering that even the big Bronco has one. Absolutely. And Dom, thanks for stopping by. Hope all is well with you too. Jordan says, any word on the new Toyota FJ Cruiser? I see a few around here in Milton, Florida that are in pristine condition, always had futuristic styling. Yeah, I always love the FJs, and they, were holding their value pretty well. Seems like they've kind of loosened up a little bit recently, but especially with the Land Cruiser and stuff now, coming onto the scene here soon. But the thinking right now is, there is a baby Land Cruiser that's been rumored, a good bit, and that could kind of compete with like Bronco Sport and stuff like that. Maybe it'll be bigger, maybe it'll be smaller. I don't know. So there's that. But as far as like a true FJ Cruiser, revival, I really think that Land Cruiser kind of fills that spot. Obviously, FJ Cruiser is two-door, and you're never going to see a two-door, I don't think, again. And so when I think of like a proper FJ Cruiser successor, I think Land Cruiser is kind of it now. I know obviously FJ Cruiser was never supposed to be like an actual Land Cruiser, but you have the round headlamps in the Land Cruiser. You have The kind of retro basic kind of styling. I mean, you can get, that base bare bones Land Cruiser still with cloth seats and all of that. And if we were doing a modern Land Cruiser, I don't remember exactly what the sticker price was back then, but they weren't cheap. I think they were in the 30s to start, even back in like 2008. You adjust that for inflation, you're probably talking about a nearly 50 grand vehicle anyway. So you're kind of probably close to, where Land Cruisers, landing. So, I feel like with all the stuff between that and 4Runner and everything else, there's so many other trucks. I don't think there's any way they could do anything, that's the same or larger than 4Runner and make it fit in the lineup. There's just not enough room. So I think any kind of other thing, if they call something an FJ Cruiser, they're going to make it smaller. They're going to make it car-based most likely, and anger people, which is why, there's talks of it, being called something else other than FJ Cruiser. What's the concept called that everyone's been talking about? That's called the I can't remember what it's called, but it's something cruiser, I think. But compact cruiser, I think is what they call it. So I don't know if that would be actual production name or not, but something like that. So I think FJ Cruiser, as far as a two-door, simple thing that's that big, I think is going to permanently stay in the past, unfortunately. Marco says, how's it going, Matt? I'm glad to see that my automatic payments have been going through. I just graduated basic combat training, and now I'm in AIT in San Antonio, Texas. I'm glad I can rejoin y'all. Thanks so much for joining in. Glad you're able to get that sorted out there with the membership, and I really appreciate the support. And congrats on graduating basic combat training. That is awesome. Thank you for your service as well. It's, one of my closest friends is in the military as well, and I have immense respect for everyone there that has offered to make that sacrifice and make sure that we all stay safe here. So I really appreciate that, and wish you all the best as well with all that. And let me see. Luke says, "Screw you all. He will change to Tuesday. The pull is a trick." Yeah, I mean, midweek thing might work sometimes, but honestly, a lot of these nights I'm up late editing anyway, and I wouldn't be able to get around to doing a live stream, unfortunately. But Michelle says, do you think there's room in Toyota's lineup? Yeah, okay, so I kind of covered that. I think you're right about being brought back as a Wrangler and Bronco competitor. I guess yeah, I mean, that's a decent point. If they really wanted to go hardcore and do like a removable door, flip down windshield, convertible thing, and really go earnestly after Wrangler and Bronco, okay, I could see that happening, but I honestly haven't heard any kind of rumors about anything like that. At least nothing credible. Maybe I missed something or it's something I haven't seen, but I mean, that'd be cool. And I know there's been some people who, whenever they heard about Land Cruiser, were hoping that Land Cruiser was going to be that, and then whenever ended up being the Prado, essentially, I think some people were disappointed because they were hoping for a Wrangler and Bronco competitor. I think Toyota might be kind of sitting back and watching that unfold, and seeing, okay, Bronco has made a dent, or is Bronco going to hold that market share, or are they going to eventually give it to Wrangler, anyway, or how is it? I think, Toyota was probably happy to let Ford be the guinea pig there and, see how that went for them and then decide what to do. But I think, Toyota, again, I mean, even though they're a massive company, they only have so many resources. And I think, they see how hot Maverick is and things like that. And I think going after those types of things is going to be a higher priority than going after Wrangler and Bronco, even though they do sell in good numbers. But, again, I just think they have so much in their truck lineup. And I think they're comfortable being a little different and not just making a Wrangler knockoff. Bronco, I'd say Land Cruiser was kind of the closest to a original Wrangler competitor anyway, way back when. And so, taking Land Cruiser in a different direction, to me, tells me they're kind of closing the door on the idea of going after Wrangler. I could be wrong. That's just how I'm reading it. I don't have any inside info or anything. But that's how I would kind of take that move with Land Cruiser, is like, this is what we want Land Cruiser to be, not a Wrangler. So yeah. And Dom says, nice 5 o'clock shadow, by the way, growing your beard. Nope, just too busy to shave this week. And it's just the way it goes sometimes. B. Mitchell's asking about the Toyota Mall Cruiser. That could be it. That could be a great name if they want to be brutally honest. That's awesome. Dom said I did AIT at Fort Sam as well. That's very cool. Luke says Landhopper. Okay, yeah, there's that. That's it. If Toyota made a Bronco sport competitor based on Corolla Cross or RAV4, maybe hybrid only would be neat. Yeah, Landhopper. I remember hearing the name. I thought that Landhopper though was going to be something that was only for other markets and not a US thing, but I could be wrong. And Jordan says, do you agree that Volkswagen should create an EV Beetle, especially after what Mini and Fiat are coming up with? Absolutely. I mean, in recent years, Volkswagen has kind of really pushed back on that hard and been like, we already did Beetle, it's done and over with. It wasn't a huge success in the later years there. It was kind of, they jumped on the retro trend back in the late 90s when that was all the rage. And I think they kind of want to be over that. And, I think, being practical, they, want to do what is the most practical, affordable vehicle, which is a little, two-door, four-door hatchback thing like the ID2 that we're seeing that's going to be coming. And so, or whatever, it's not ID2. What is it? The ID, it's always so hard to remember all that stuff whenever they don't use like normal names. But, the little small hatchback we saw, they're going to have a GTI version, all that, those are kind of their people's car solution, because it's just no one buys two doors really. And, for city cars and stuff, it's okay. And yes, I guess that Fiat would say, people actually do buy two doors because the Fiat 500e is selling really well in Europe. So there is a market there, and Mini's obviously trying as well. But I think between the two of them, they have it pretty well covered. Obviously, I mean, the Volkswagen Beetle is iconic, and it's something that I personally, as a retro lover and someone who loves seeing Volkswagen go back to their roots, because I think that's the strongest pull is nostalgia, and I think that still could work, and I think an electric Beetle could really be cool, but it just seems like they're not interested, and maybe there's just not enough market share there between the Mini and the Fiat already having it covered to do a third two-door small range little thing like that. It might just be too many thinly sliced pieces of the pie. I don't know. But I'd love to see it. Zachary says, of course, Saturday will win on a Saturday stream. I suppose, I guess, yeah, valid point. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir here with a Saturday question, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will do it next Sunday when I do a Sunday stream. I will ask again, and we'll see. We'll average out the two and see what the final consensus is there. Mike says, I know we don't yet know pricing, but my assumption of the 4Runner starting 10 grand less than Land Cruiser, I really don't understand who's going to necessarily want the Land Cruiser. I mean, Land Cruiser is bigger. It's bigger. It's way taller. It's just a different thing as far as its size. And again, I can't talk about driving dynamics or really any specifics about Land Cruiser since I have driven it and now I'm under the embargo. So I can't weigh in too much, but I mean, I guess we'll see. Toyota is confident with their positioning, and we will see how buyers react to all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say until we see 4Runner pricing, but I'm assuming it's going to be close to the current gen and close to Tacoma. So you can kind of look at those two vehicles and their pricing currently and, probably make a pretty close guess about, where it's going to land. And yeah, so, I mean, it's the same question you can say about Land Cruiser versus GX, and this is something that I'll bring up in my Land Cruiser review. So again, I'm not going to get into it, but, Land Cruiser and GX are pretty closely spaced that you'd say, who would want a Land Cruiser over a GX if they're so close in price? But people are already lining up for Land Cruiser. So, there is some interest there. Again, it'll just take time to see, how far this lasts beyond the early adopters of these vehicles. But yeah, I think Toyota. Yeah, I'll have to talk more about it in my review. You have to wait for the review. We'll be coming here next week for more of my thoughts on Land Cruiser and where I think it fits in and all that. Marco says, depending on where I go for my first duty station in about 16 weeks, I might change my mind on a car and go for a bike. Only thing is that I don't know anything about bikes. I do know I want a 500cc. Yeah, I don't know anything about bikes either, so I can't really help you out there. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly makes sense if you don't have a long commute or anything, or you just want to save some gas money and get something nice and cheap. I mean, bikes are a great option as long as you're, cool with the extra, risks and all that, but it also is, from what I've heard, more exhilarating as well. And Vishal says, from the weekly update, I agree about all-wheel drive increasingly becoming more forced. I live in North Carolina, so the weather doesn't get bad enough to need all-wheel drive. This is why our Highlander is a front-wheel drive instead of all-wheel drive. Yeah, it's weird how Genesis G80 dropped the rear-wheel drive this past week. It's just, again, like, sometimes car companies just seem so tone deaf. Like, I know we're talking about a luxury brand with Genesis, and this isn't just Genesis, but their recent news. That's why I'll pick on them here for a minute. But you hear about rising transaction prices, and I mean the G80 especially is not some super hot seller. So you would think, hey, let's make the G80 more appealing. Let's drop the price of it, or at the very least, let's at least keep the affordable version around instead of pushing it up market. It just seems the exact opposite of what they should be doing, to be completely honest. And it's like, and I don't know. I mean, like Hyundai's, and they're headquartered in Southern California. Like, they should know, hey, like, here's a place we are all living, who are making these decisions. We're all living in a place that is always warm and doesn't need all-wheel drive, especially in a sedan where there's no pretense of adventuring or anything like that. Why make it all-wheel drive only? It just seems strange. I guess maybe the top executives in Korea maybe forced that through for some reason or something. I don't know, but it just seems strange. Maybe they just want to compete, because I don't believe in America. Can you get a rear-wheel drive version of the Mercedes E-Class still? I'm not sure if you can. I know a lot of them have also gone to 4MATIC, and obviously like Audi is all-wheel drive only. So maybe they just thought it was more competitive that way, but I think do something different instead of just conforming to what everyone else is doing and offer rear-wheel drive. Yeah, it's strange. And Dom says, since we're on Toyota, I don't think Bronco Wrangler, unless it's a full EV type of off-roader, I don't see something like that happening. Yeah, I mean, and maybe they could beat everyone to the punch, because it seems like Ford has now delayed the electric Bronco till the 2030s. And then, I mean, it sounds like electric Wrangler is something that is probably coming sooner rather than later, especially with Stellantis needing to, really boost their CAFE averages fast. So we will see. I think, Recon is the thing that's coming up next, though. That's going to be the electric Jeep that'll start that whole thing. But that's not going to be a Wrangler, really. So that'll be kind of a different beast. But, interesting to see how that all plays out. And Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, major car companies have sub-brands. Could Tesla benefit by doing the same? Honestly, I've never considered that idea. It's a good question. I don't know. I feel like Tesla doesn't have the same worries as other companies. Like, I think that they are comfortable being this, like, kind of luxury, kind of not luxury brand. And I think a lot of people, if you would ask them, would say that, yeah, it is kind of like a luxury brand. So then does that mean that, like, you do a sub brand that is viewed as lesser than a regular Tesla, or do you do something that is supposed to be like more high end? I don't know. I really feel like Tesla, I feel like other companies could probably benefit from it more so than Tesla. But I think, I really feel like Tesla is kind of Tesla, and they are such a strong brand from a perception standpoint that, just like how everyone sees right through Lincoln and says, like, this is still based on a Ford, most likely. I feel like this is kind of the same kind of problem. If you try to do something else with a sub brand for Tesla, people would just see right through it and be like, it's just still a Tesla. And it'd be hard to differentiate significantly. So I don't think there's really, I really can't see a benefit. I'd love to hear anyone else's thoughts about that, because that is a very intriguing question. But I personally don't think there really is much that they could do that I can envision. And thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. Great question as well. You stopped me there. It's rare that I don't have an opinion on something, but that is one where I feel like there's probably nowhere to really go for them. And let me see. Zachary says, what are some cars you like a little ironically that you wouldn't mind owning? For me, it's the first gen Scion XB. Man, I love the first gen XBs. They are so cool. So some stuff that's maybe counterintuitive that I like. I mean, I love Super Bajas. which I'm not a truck person at all, but for some reason I always just liked the Bajas and thought they were super cool, especially the fact that you can get it with a turbo. And I believe the turbo came with a manual there for a little narrow window. So yeah, I mean, one of those would be really cool. And then I actually love the Scion TC. I was a big fan of the TC when that came out. So that could be another, one that's I wouldn't mind owning. Other stuff. I feel like there was something like this I was just thinking about the other day that was like kind of an odd choice, but something that I was like kind of into still. That was from the past, but I can't remember what it was now. If I think of it, I'll let you know. But I'd say those are probably the top two. XBs were super cool. I remember as a teenager when they first came out, someone I knew picked one up, a manual one, and took me for a little ride around the block in it. And it was actually like pretty peppy for what was like 108 horsepower or something. They were such cool little cars. It was such a cool time back then. I'm starting to get nostalgic and show my age, I suppose, but I thought they were really great. I miss that stuff. Luke says combine the two, the Toyota 4 Cruiser. That's a fun idea. Six Luke says for some reason when I think of off-roading and camping SUVs, the Wrangler and Bronco are the first to come to mind. Yeah, I mean, as far as off-roading, that's definitely the case. I think for most people, it's just Wrangler has just forever been there, and I think that's just kind of why one of the reasons why the Jeep brand is so insanely valuable. And 66 also says, meanwhile, when I think of commuter getaway family SUVs, I think of 4Runner and Land Cruiser. Interesting. I'm surprised you think of Land Cruiser at all, because I feel like most people in America, Land Cruiser is barely on the map for the average person. I think that's gonna be the one thing with Land Cruiser is like outside of the Toyota faithful, like trying to just build brand awareness for Land Cruiser is gonna really be gonna take a lot of marketing effort, I think. Because outside of those of us that are familiar with Toyotas, otherwise Land Cruiser, I mean they sold what a couple hundred a year typically, in this past decade. No one has usually seen a Land Cruiser, knows what a Land Cruiser is, when you're talking about regular people that aren't into cars. So I feel like Land Cruiser is going to be kind of a new idea for a lot of people who might actually think it's kind of like a Land Rover, like it's a play on that, and don't even realize that Land Cruiser goes back, 50 plus years. And so, I think that's going to kind of be a challenge for them. I mean, people are familiar with 4Runner because there's zillions of them everywhere, but I think Land Cruiser is going to be a new thing. And I think for Toyota, that's a cool opportunity to be like, let's redefine this, for a new audience who doesn't maybe remember it or know about it. And I think it's going to kind of be a cool blank slate in many ways for them as well. And Sixlex also says maybe Toyota should invest in developing an SUV that competes with the Bronco and Wrangler with the mindset of going for a blank canvas and easily modifiable SUV. Yeah, I mean, I think, if I were to position a competitor, I think the one opportunity that I see is something truly simple and small and cheap, because Wranglers are super expensive now. Broncos are super expensive. I mean, you can get like even a bare bones Wrangler. I mean, maybe they lease better or there's deals and stuff, but as far as sticker prices, I mean, there's still, it should not be a, mid to high $30,000 vehicle just for a bare bones thing that's got the same interior quality and features as a Nissan Versa that's 19 grand or whatever. I mean, it's the off-road stuff isn't that valuable. So like, I mean, to me, like I feel like there's an opportunity to do like a true 20,000 something off-roader that still is capable. It still has, the basic stuff. I mean, you don't have to have all the fancy off-road tech, but it has enough stuff to get you off-road and do some fun stuff and have it be really, simple. I think something like that, could really be a cool way to, do like a blank canvas and make it very easy modifiable and all that. I think that is the only gap in the market that I personally see. But I mean, yeah, if you guys have other opinions, I'm sure Toyota would love to, hear any options out there for where they can maybe squeeze in another truck. But I think they're pretty well packed in there, aside from just going down market, which no one seems to want to do, but I feel like is what everyone should be doing. And 66 also is talking about, the Landhopper again. And Luke says, I ride a 94 BMW K75. It's super fun. It's my version of the Bullet. Nice. I'm glad you found your own love there with a Bullet type of love. That's great. And two, thanks for joining in for the super chat. He says, hey guys, sorry I'm late. The new handcuffs are tricky to escape from. Well, I was a few minutes late, and someone speculated early on that it was because I was really tying you down good there in the basement. So inside joke for anyone who's unfamiliar, but thanks so much for joining in too. And anyone who watches these regularly, you will be quickly caught up on the basement lore here as time goes on. And Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships here. I really appreciate that, and happy to see we have some members able to join back in here thanks to Kyle's generosity. So thank you so much, Kyle, and looking forward to seeing those members being able to get that priority answering here. And let me see. So where was I here? Dom says 500 cc is a good start. And let me see. I also see WX says, came here to tell you I've been watching you since you started, since the ZeroX fan days. That's awesome. I really appreciate the long-term support. I get a good amount of those kinds of comments, and I always appreciate every one of them, because to me that really, just gives me the most encouragement, that not only is it just like people are like, hey, I like your videos, but like people are like, I've liked your videos enough to stick around for almost a decade. Even if you watch in the very end of the Super X fan days, it's been almost, I switched to Matt Maran in 2017, so we're only we're already 7 years into that basically, which just is insane to say out loud. But yeah, so I really appreciate, it really means a lot. So thank you so much. Hope you're still enjoying the channel as much as you were back then in those early days as well. Mike says, I remember hearing this last year, but do you think Volkswagen Group will eventually sell off Lamborghini? I don't think so. I heard that rumor a while back where they were thinking about, getting rid of some stuff. I think the idea was maybe them splitting it off to do like did they do the IPO of Lamborghini? Is that something that has already happened or is happening, or I haven't followed that? Maybe there was just a rumor about that. I have no clue, but I think maybe they could do the same thing like Ferrari, where Ferrari kind of split off from, the Fiat Chrysler brands and all that, but it's still kind of, within the same family, just technically is a little more separated. I feel like they could maybe do something like that with Lamborghini, but I feel like unless someone offers big money, Lamborghini is financially secure. They don't need to, go and get sold off to different companies like Aston Martin has, and like we've seen with McLaren and all that. I don't think there needs to be any of that going on. So I think Lamborghini is pretty secure. So unless someone really wanted to pay huge money, but I feel like that would be a very large price tag. So I feel like they're probably going to stick with it unless things get really bad for Volkswagen. And I think that might have been an idea that was floated also back during Dieselgate when things were really getting bad for Volkswagen. But I feel like now they're probably okay, even with the electric switchover being very expensive. I feel like Lamborghini should be safe within Volkswagen, but I don't know. Let me see. Dom says, by the way, Matt, I know it's not your thing, but you look good with a beard. I appreciate that. If it wasn't so scratchy, like I wouldn't want to do like a big beard. I know that's when it kind of gets softer, but it's just like it's so prickly. And I'm sure there's products and stuff I could use that maybe get a little softer. I don't know. I just don't have enough experience. Beard people, feel free to please chime in. I don't know. Is it something that eventually if you want to keep it like this length, can you actually get it to not be prickly? I don't know. Or maybe that just comes down to like facial hair type and genetics and stuff. I don't know, but I appreciate the compliments. And I don't hate the look either. It's just, to me, it's just a little scratchy and uncomfortable. If there wasn't that, I probably would honestly keep some form of something around. And if I had more time to like groom myself, I guess is the word, I would probably just always have it at like a couple of days of 5 o'clock shadow, and just have a little bit of a shade there instead of this, which is a little bit more. This is like, I'd say probably 4 or 5 days of growth here. But anyway, I appreciate that, Tom. And Michelle says, I think Tesla is a strong enough name. Yeah, I mean, just a brand. I agree. And Deborah says, your review of the 2013 STI made me buy my Deborah X that I've owned for 11 years now. That's awesome. I'm so glad it helped you find a car you love, and glad that it's it's been a good car for you, I'm assuming. If you've had it for 11 years now, that's awesome. I've never owned a car that long, so it's that's an impressive commitment too. So good on you for finding a car you love and sticking with it. And B. Mitchell said, having been stationed in there myself, to Marco, if you get posted to Germany, you'll find MCs being a better option than the States, far better MC community than the States rather than dogging Yukons. It's awesome to see the feedback here. That's so cool. Love to see the community. Trunk Car guy says we don't need to be giving Elon more money. I'm going to just take a drink and let that one be. Luke says sub brands are hit or miss. Honestly, me personally, I don't see the point. I'd rather just buy a Subaru BRZ than a Toyota 86. That's a BRZ with Toyota badges. I know not exactly the same thing. Yeah, I mean, the badge engineering thing is a little interesting. I mean, obviously, like for something like that, I give it a pass because if it wasn't for the partnership, it wouldn't have happened. And so, if that's what needs to be, then I'm fine with that. Even though again, it is silly, to have two cars with different names and all that, but. I think this generation they've done a better job of differentiating it than they did last generation for sure. The Six Lick said I can see Tesla going for a cyber sub brand. Imagine a whole line of shared platforms for the Model 3, Cyber Sedan Air, Model S, Cyber Sedan Pro, Model Y, Cyber SUV Air, Model X, Cyber SUV Pro. Okay. Yeah, if they wanted to have more ordinary Tesla looks and then crazy Cybertruck styling for a new generation, that's actually a really good idea. I haven't seen anything like that floated out there. That you might be a pioneer, a visionary there with that. Maybe they will do something like that. They're so slow with product development though that it'll probably take them another 15 years to get all those products out. But it's actually not a terrible idea, especially if people actually continue to like Cybertruck styling and that becomes more normal and more accepted, then I could totally see that, happening potentially. Let me see. Sorry, I missed a couple of super chats here too. Thank you for a super chat. He says, what two-door variant, if ever, would you see coming to market? 4Runner or Land Cruiser? And also, how was Daddy Toyota, you shill? So I don't think they're good. Two-door variant of either. I don't think you'll never see that, in my opinion. If it were to be one or the other, I mean, Land Cruiser has the history historically. If they wanted to do a new, or if they want to do like a Land Cruiser sub brand and have, another Land Cruiser that they call something else, name wise, and pull a Mazda CX-70 or something. But I think a two-door Land Cruiser is the only thing there's historical precedent for. So if I had to pick between one or the other, it'd be the Land Cruiser. But I don't think you're going to see either in a two-door. And the Toyota event, though, was great in all seriousness. There's a lot of cars we filmed there. I mean, 4 reviews plus the reveal of the 4Runner. That's the most I've ever done on a press trip ever. And I was worried it was going to be like a completely overwhelming just deluge of stuff. Thankfully, it actually was totally fine. They really did a good job of setting it up. And thankfully, with my videos not needing insanely high levels of production value, I'm able to knock out a review pretty fast. So for my type of videos, I was able to do just fine. Some other people, though, they showed up and they're like, yeah, I can't film all 4. Like, I don't have time. And it's just the way it's going to be. Then so a lot of people were skipping, like Tacoma or skipping, some of the other stuff. They just didn't have time for, depending on, what their, outlet focuses on. But that event, though, was so fun. If you follow my Instagram, you saw the stories this week of, all the other YouTubers I got to hang out with. But it was incredible. The one moment that was like really wild. I actually finally met James from Throttle House for the first time there. And it was wild. So it was, we were sitting at the first night dinner there, and the circle, the half circle, there's a few other people at the table that weren't like super well known or anything, but like it was Joe Rady, Jason Fensky from Engineering Explained, James from Throttle House, and then Jacob and Yuri from Straight Pipes, and then me. And I was like, man, like the amount of stuff at this table is crazy. And even I think it was, who was it that was joking? It might have been Jack from Savage Geese, who was also there. Him and Mark got to catch up with them, which was great. But one of them joked that like if a tsunami hit that beach where the 4Runner was at and wiped us all out, like there would be like no automotive content on YouTube anymore, because like anyone was there basically. It was crazy. But it was like so much fun. Usually, I have a lot of those fellow, YouTube buddies that are there, and it's always a lot of fun on all these trips. But this one had like everyone. Like I haven't seen Yuri and Jacob from the Straight Pipes since I think 2019. So it's so great to, 5 years basically to finally catch up with them in person. I mean, me and Yuri chat on Instagram and stuff pretty frequently, but to, just catch up with them in person and see them and just everybody. I mean, I got to spend a lot of time with, Engineering Explained. Me and him go way back, and it was so great to another, person I haven't seen in, a year or two. And so just so great to catch up with so many friends. And I'm truly I'm so thankful that like this is my job and I get to do this. It's with all these awesome people. The cars are amazing as well, but truly when you show up at these events and have so much fun with so many awesome people, it was honestly one of those trips where I had to pinch myself, and it really cemented my fact, like, even if this channel continues to decline with the views and all that, I'm going to try my hardest to keep going with this channel no matter what until the very, very last moment. I want to try and just survive as long as I can, because this is still my dream job, and it's been such an amazingly fun ride, and I don't want it to end, to be totally honest. So this week with Toyota really drove that home to me. Like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta find a way to get this channel to get some decent views again. I gotta figure it out, because I love this too much, and it would be so sad if I had to stop doing this full time. Because then I wouldn't be able to do the press trips, almost certainly, because that'd be probably the first thing I'd have to quit if I ended up getting another job where I didn't have the flexibility to take time off all the time and all that, to go on those events. So hoping that something that I do someday by some dumb luck turns this channel around and gets things to a better view standpoint. We will see. Anyway, sorry for the long tangent there, but yes, the Toyota event was great. And Kevin, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, Maxima recommends premium gas. Can I use 87? Definitely check your owner's manual and, look around online and see what other people have experienced if they have tried, skipping out on that. I mean, typically I would say most modern ECUs can pull timing and just get rid of some horsepower to live off 87 without doing damage to the engine. There are some motors that still maybe can't do that well enough to guarantee the same longevity and stuff. So I don't want to do a blanket statement and be like, oh, the ECU will figure it out, it'll be fine. Typically that is the answer, but I can't guarantee that. So I would definitely try and, do a little research in Maxima communities and see if anyone has a better answer for you there. But thank you again for the super chat. Sorry, I don't have a more definitive answer. Sixlick says, Matt, maybe you can bleach your facial hair to thin it out and then lather it in conditioner for buttery smoothness. There you go. That could be the answer there. Bleached beard would be an interesting look. And thanks for being a member of Sixlicks as well. I really appreciate the support. And let me see. Where was I? Sixlicks says tech product naming at conventions. Yeah, as far as the Tesla there. And Michelle says incoming super rant on why they won't make a new Baja. You know me very well, Michelle. I will skip the Baja rant tonight, but yeah, it's Subaru just doesn't like printing money, apparently. Let me see. Jeremy, thank you so much for being a member for 23 months now, almost 2 years. I really appreciate that. He says, hi, Matt, have you considered publishing individual car news as YouTube shorts? Might be popular and doesn't have to wait until Friday. Yeah, I got to figure out what to do with the weekly updates, because they have really dropped off with views in the past couple of months here. I mean, like this one, I mean, it's only Saturday night and some people watch on Sunday, but not a lot. But I mean, this one's at like 5,000 some odd views. They used to always get like 10,000 views pretty reliably. We're down to half of that. I just think a lot of it is just people don't want to hear about the EVs, and, maybe my comments on EVs and, my lack of hate for them has turned a lot of people off. And so people are just tuning out, or they're just not excited about new cars anymore. And I mean, I can respect that. But the weekly updates are getting to a point where it's really becoming questionable why I'm spending 2 days of valuable work time on a video that gets 5,000 views and never anymore. a car review gets 5,000 views in a week, like that's fine because it continues to get views. People are always searching for that car, and that video still gets, a couple of views even, 10 years from now. So those make sense because it is an evergreen thing, and weekly update is not. They get views in the first weekend and then they basically just die after that. So it's yeah. So I mean, as far as your suggestion there, putting them as YouTube shorts, the YouTube short thing is still so tricky because yes, they have been shown to boost your subscriber count a little bit. I mean, I've experimented with shorts and they haven't really done much for me yet. And I know that it can boost your views, but it only boosts your views from a metric standpoint to, I guess, sell to brands. But you don't make any money on shorts really. So, it'd be like if I start doing them as shorts instead of weekly updates, then I'm losing out on even the few bucks that I do make on the weekly updates, and then just giving that stuff away for free and hoping that maybe some of those people then stick around to watch something else. But it's tough. I mean, I think to me, if I were really going to do news well, I would just do regular YouTube videos the day that story comes out and just do things on just one car, kind of like Kurt Kreifels, how he kind of does with some of his automotive news stuff. I think that is the better way to do it. I just don't have the time, and there's often a lot of days either with traveling or other filming commitments and things like that where I'm not sitting at my computer being like, oh hey, look, like the new M5 just came out, let me just go and immediately do a video. Like a lot of times I just got a million things planned for that day already, and I can't just stop everything I'm doing and cover that car. But that's what you need to do. If it's news, then you got to be out there immediately with it, or else you don't get views. And I think it's part of why the weekly updates have always struggled, because it's always waiting until Friday, and unless you're not in a hurry, then you're going to be late with all the news that you're receiving from the video. And so I think the weekly updates were inherently flawed from the beginning in a lot of ways. I mean, it's fun as a nice weekly wrap up for people who again don't need news right now, but I think also the cultural shift of these past 10 years I've been doing weekly updates almost, went from a more casual news cycle to, again, everything being right now. I mean, obviously we had some of that 10 years ago as well, but to me, I feel like that's amped up as well recently. And I think that's also, hurting those things, but I still just don't have appeal for shorts. And actually I've been seeing videos that also suggest that shorts could actually hurt your channel, because then if people subscribe because they see, they watch one of your shorts, they really like it, then they subscribe, those people typically want to see more shorts. They very rarely cross over to watch regular videos, but YouTube has linked those two algorithms so that they want to try and give the long form stuff a shot and be like, okay, this person subscribed to this channel, let's start recommending their long form stuff to this shorts viewer. And then whenever that shorts viewer doesn't click on any of the recommendations, then that sends a bad signal to YouTube that, okay, well, not only is this person not interested in this person's long form stuff, but maybe this long form video actually isn't that great because it's not converting them over to a long form viewer. So therefore, maybe this video sucks, and let's just bury it to the other people who might otherwise like long form stuff. Then they're not seeing it anymore because the video is just getting bogged down by the algorithm getting the wrong idea. So shorts are still really tricky. It's still kind of the Wild West with those and how they're going to, affect the creator economy, but I feel like they are not going to help things. Obviously it's just, you need to compete with TikTok. I understand why YouTube's doing them, and I understand how it's a different type of format, and it is enjoyable if you're someone who likes those quick hits and you want something casual, you don't want to commit to a big long video. I can totally appreciate the appeal. Just as someone doing this full time and again trying to survive, shorts would be a great way to potentially make the channel seem like it's blowing up again. If I'm all of a sudden getting millions of views on shorts, it might seem like, wow, Mass Channel is doing great. Look at, he's getting these huge views, and he's maybe even getting a bunch more subscribers. And outside of selling ads, though, I'd be making way less money because, again, I'd be making $3 on a short that gets, 100,000 views or whatever. So like, it's just, it's tough. So yeah, I want to be open to shorts, and I've been trying to look at 15 different ways to try and find something that's could work. And I've done low effort stuff like posting my acceleration reactions as shorts, and quick little things like that, little rev clips, stuff like that. And I mean, some of that stuff does okay, but I I even tried doing like the one little one-off thing. If you saw, I saw that like 200,000 mile Audi SQ5, and I was like, wow, this is wild. Let me do a quick little thing. And I posted that up. And, that really didn't do much either, because I was like, oh, maybe this is something different. I can find like oddball cars and highlight those. Because I feel like that's kind of something like TFL does on their Instagram to pretty good effect. But that first one didn't really give me a lot of encouragement to keep doing that. I mean, I'm certainly open to still doing that stuff, but I feel like if I'm going to do shorts, I'm going to do shorts as something different. I see that there are a couple of people on like Instagram Reels and TikTok and stuff that do little car news clips like that. And that's great, except like that, those people on TikTok and on Reels, they're making $0, especially on Instagram and on TikTok. Maybe TikTok, they're making a few bucks if they're in whatever creator program there's on TikTok, but like they are not making like livable earning wages off of those videos, even if they get millions of views, unless they're getting hit with an ad and they're, telling you, by the way, buy this product, in the middle of the car news update or something. Other than that, they're not making any money on that. And that's the difference. Like if I was just doing this for fun, I was just doing this just, to play around, and I was financially stable and all this stuff, and like, that would be more appealing. But again, as someone who's trying to do this full time, short form stuff is not going to provide you with a actual livable wage for a full-time person, especially one with a family of 3. So that's why, long form stuff is still where it's at whenever you're trying to actually make good money. And I think it's why, at least I've been starting to see some TikTokers and stuff switching over to YouTube and doing long form stuff. And even a lot of shorts creators who maybe started on shorts now going to long form, because they're like, I'm getting really tired of trying to like sell myself to brands constantly and always hitting people with ads in order to just make a few bucks. And they like the stability of just clicking monetize and having YouTube figure out the rest as long as you bring the views in. It's why YouTube has the staying power it has and why it's been so popular for so long. And I really worry that if short form takes over, you're not going to see full-time people doing this anymore, aside from the 1% of the 1% that, made it big enough to, get those brand deals. Outside of that, no one else is gonna be able to do this and do it. Versus, I think YouTube said, as far as long form goes, I don't know if they said there's maybe like over 100,000 creators making over 100,000 a year or something like that. I can't remember what the statistic was, but it was something around that, I think, where it's like they're truly like providing people with like living decent, good amounts of earnings, doing something they love. And that's the amazing thing, versus just, with TikTok and Reels and all these, just exploiting people, to be totally honest. They're making enormous amounts of money and paying people nothing, essentially. It's just robbery, and it's just wrong, in my opinion, honestly. And that's part of why I haven't really done anything on TikTok, because I don't want to support a platform that doesn't pay people fairly for the amount of work that they're doing. It's insane, it's just, but people don't seem to have the hate for it that I do. But it's just like, as someone who's, again, trying to survive off of this, like, it is a slap in the face how little TikTok pays, and Reels doesn't even pay at all anymore. It's just a complete slap in the face. Anyway, sorry for the long rant. But anyway, in the meantime, thank you so much, too, for a super chat. He says, see, proof he is a shill. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Also awkward that Matt and Doug are now both Toyota shills. Sibling rivalry. Is Doug a Toyota shill? No, I didn't realize. I did hear that Doug was, at some point, I think he got to the event before everyone else. I think he had a special like early preview, because he's Doug, of course, to do the Forerunner thing. But no one saw him that I know of. He doesn't like socializing with everyone else typically. Let me see. Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says, will the bubble ever burst on excessively large vehicles marketed for the U.S.? Seems like Chevy, Cadillac, Ford are creating school bus size SUVs. A decrease in size, not safety, be beneficial. A decrease in size would be great. And, I guess this kind of gets into like politics in a way, just because free market kind of stuff. I think that the big SUVs are kind of the free market running wild, and consumers just voting with their wallets. People, it's this arms race now of people just wanting, everyone else has a pickup truck. Why? Because I better get a pickup truck, because otherwise I don't feel safe on the road without me also having a school bus sized vehicle. And I think it's just this thing of again, like I got to have a bigger car than the next guy so that I'm safe, and that perceived safety around that stuff. And then you have the same thing with EVs. They're getting heavier, so some people might even feel threatened by them, and so that's another reason why we got to have bigger, bigger, bigger. And I was like, where do you go? Like, how big do you go before it gets crazy? And I think I just saw a story this week that said, I think it was the NTSB or one of the safety regulatory agencies was saying that like they are going to start pushing really hard against safety stuff, especially because pedestrian deaths are way up. And I think I'm envisioning that you're going to see the same kind of thing we saw in Europe whenever they really started pushing hard for like the hoods that couldn't be super high, and you had to have like the little built-in explosives to like pop the hood up, kind of act as like a airbag of sorts for pedestrians. That's been a European regulation for a while. Those types of things. I think we could see some of that start to push really hard in American cars, and there might even start to be a limit outside of like commercial level stuff as far as how high things can go, and kind of start dictating car design, I think, a little bit more with regulation. I mean, again, we'll have to wait and see how these agencies change if things, get switched up in November. And obviously, again, car companies are going to design stuff the way they're going to design stuff. But if you tell a car company legally you're not allowed to build a car that has a brick wall for a front end, they're going to have to comply if they want to sell and, do some kind of last minute, redesign or something. So I think you could see something like that because it's a problem. And, you could put a bunch of other things as the scapegoat, like, oh, people should pay more attention when they're walking around, or, drivers will, be saved by the automatic emergency braking and all these other things. And, so we should just still have giant vehicles and have the tech save us and have people pay attention and then problem solved. But that's just assuming naively that those things will fix themselves when they won't. And I think regulation oftentimes is necessary because otherwise a lot of people won't do the right thing. A lot of companies won't do the right thing. They will just follow the money, and the money doesn't lead you to the best case scenario. Capitalism often doesn't lead to the most benevolent, good for humanity type of thing. It's about the dollar. And so wherever the money is, that's what you're going to make. And if everyone wants to buy a brick wall on wheels, car companies are going to make a brick wall on wheels, regardless of how bad it is for everyone within a 10-mile radius of the thing, So I think that we will, if these regulatory agencies are able to continue doing what they're doing and actually follow through on all their threats, I think we will start to see more regulation as far as what you're allowed to do with car design going forward, especially for, again, those large vehicles, to try to combat this a little bit and get these pedestrian deaths, decreased. So we will see. But yeah, and it's a problem for so many other ways as well. But certainly as far as the safety thing for sure. And great question, Jordan. Thanks so much for asking it and for the super chat again. And I'm going to get behind here on the member questions with all my rants here. I apologize. Where was I? So Trent Car Guy says, I have a coworker who owns a manual TC. That is awesome. I'm glad to see that a few of those are still around. I feel like I don't see TCs very often, at least around here, but I'm so glad that some people are keeping them alive. And Six Lick says those come supercharged too, if I recall correctly, on some trims. For the manual, for the TCs, you were able to get a TRD supercharger. I believe it was a factory add-on, or maybe it was a dealer added-on thing, but they did offer one for sure. Never tried one. Honestly, I've never even driven a regular TC, to be totally honest. I'd love to try one someday. And if I needed like a cheap, reliable, affordable car, and I was just paying cash for something, I've actually looked a couple of months ago. You can get one for like $5,000 in like decent shape. So that'd probably be my pick if you're looking for something for like $5,000 or less, and you don't need a ton of practicality as far as doors. I mean, it has the huge hatch, which is awesome as well. But if I needed like a $5,000 car, I would probably hunt down a TC. I love those things so much. And Dom said no benefit for a Tesla sub-brand in his opinion. Their cars are so in between, luxurious enough, but still kind of average. Maybe they could go ultra luxury. Yeah, I guess there's something there they could do to maybe compete more directly with like Lucid and like those higher price points a little bit more. But yeah, I feel like, again, people would just see right through it, I think, honestly. And let me see. Cam Jam says, good evening, Matt. Do you think that the previous gen Mazda 3 manual is good enough to choose over current gen for about $4,000 to $5,000 cheaper on the used market? Can you tell that the new one has the Torsen beam? So Interesting question there. So the first part of your question, as far as is the previous gen Mazda 3 good enough over the current gen? Part of it comes down to how valuable that $4,000 to $5,000 savings is to you. But I think that, yeah, the last gen Mazda 3 was great. I'm sure you've probably seen my review of it. I said back in like 2018, whenever I reviewed it, it was the enthusiast choice of the time. I think they're great. Obviously, you're going to be at a disadvantage from a tech standpoint. I don't believe they had CarPlay at that point in time, things like that. Maybe with that head unit, you could upgrade it because they have had an upgrade for some of them. But regardless, I'm assuming that's not a huge issue for you if you're open to it. I think they're great. Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice savings, I'd say, for that segment. So yeah, if you're not needing the most plush interior or, the newest stuff and all that, by all means, the last gen Mazda 3 is a great choice. As far as the difference between the Torsion Beam and the new one and the Multi-Link and the old one, which was an interesting change. A lot of people thought they were going in the wrong direction, kind of going backwards. The Torsion Beam in the Mazda 3 in the current generation, to me, doesn't hurt it. I think it's still one of the best handling sedans in its segment. And yeah, to me, the Torsion Beam wasn't bad. According to Mazda, they did a bunch of research and they swear up and down. They gave us a big, long explanation as far as why they went to Torsion Beam, because I was on the Mazda 3 launch here, and what was that, I think that's 2019 actually for that. They were convinced like this is the better way to go. And yeah, to me, again, I have to drive them both back to back, which I've never done, but from my memory of the old one and my memory of, the current one. Yeah. And I remember even back in the time, when I had a more fresh comparison there, I believe remember saying like the Torsion Beam's fine. It's not a downgrade from a handling standpoint. So to me, yeah, I think you might actually have a slightly smoother ride in the new Mazda 3. So ride quality is probably slightly better, but regular, old last gen Mazda 3 is also totally fine in my opinion. My sister leased one for 3 years of the prior gen Mazda 3. She loved it. She really had a good experience, so much so that she continued to stay with Mazda, and now is a CX-5. So she was really happy with it. It was much better than her Volkswagen Jetta that she had before that, and at least one of those that wasn't quite as good. So she was happy to go to the Mazda 3 and hasn't looked back since, and still likes her Mazdas there. But hopefully that helps give you a little clarity there. And the good stick says, just did a road trip in a Model Y long range. I started with 80% and came back with 29%, 117 miles total. Nice. That's a nice little trip there. And glad it went well for you. And I don't know. I'm kind of getting the itch to do another road trip in the Mach-E. Because the last time we did one, we did a little one last summer. We went to Columbus and back. We only had to do one fast charging stop because it actually made it all the way there without even needing to charge. And on the way back, we just had to stop once for a quick little top off, and that was it. I've had, knock on wood, really good experiences with the charging network so far. So I'd be curious to do another little road trip. We were thinking about maybe doing a beach thing or something this year. We'll see. But I'm kind of itching to get back out there in the Mach-E and do another EV road trip. Because for me, it's fun. I know for a lot of people, that's like a nightmare scenario. But I'm a planner and I love like planning stops and researching the charging spots and all that. And so for someone like me who's a planner, it's actually kind of fun to plan it all out and execute it and properly, and being very, I guess, type A is the way to describe it. I don't know, kind of personality there, but well, I'm glad it went well for you. Good stick. And Jazz says, any future for Lincoln only has 4 vehicles and one produced in China with the Nautilus. I think Lincoln has a good future. They are putting up pretty good numbers with Navigator, and even, we have the new Aviator or refreshed Aviator here. And the Nautilus seems to, making a pretty big splash so far. I will be getting a Nautilus, actually. Amazingly, I was surprised I got scheduled in it, because I haven't had a Lincoln press car since 2016, when I said that the MKC or MKX at the time, I was like, it's based on the Ford Edge, but I'd rather have the Lincoln because it's nicer, but it's based on a Ford Edge. Lincoln hated that I said that it was based on a Ford Edge, and I hadn't had a press vehicle from Lincoln since, and I've never been invited on a press event for them either. But so I just assumed I was blacklisted from them. Maybe I was, maybe I never was, and I don't know. But they just didn't want to send me stuff for whatever other reason. But I am going to be getting a Lincoln press car, so that'll be interesting. I'm excited to try out the Nautilus. I think it could be a really solid competitor for the Lexus RX if you're someone who, again, isn't super concerned with keeping it for 10 plus years or something. And Linda says, I've been watching you since August 2017. I appreciate the long-term support there. Linda, you were right there in the early days of the Matt Maran switchover. So thanks for being a supporter all these years as well. Zachary says, beard oil. It's for moistening the skin. Push through. Barber here. Awesome. Well, that's cool. You're a barber. Zachary, we should talk because if you're a barber, I would love to hear. I mean, my barber has given me some advice and opinions as well, but I like my haircut, but I'm open to like kind of maybe a new look potentially. Just because I've been doing kind of the same thing for a long time, and I'm open to maybe something a little different. So I'd love to maybe pick your brain someday about that if you don't mind. But I appreciate the beard oil suggestion. Maybe I will get a little bit of that and just see what happens. I mean, yeah, we can maybe talk about this off the chat, but I have follow-up questions here I can ask as far as the beard oil, but I will look into that as well. So thank you so much for the suggestion there, Zachary. And B. Mitchell says Lincoln has more of a future than Chrysler, in my opinion. I agree, but I think Chrysler also, they have a lot of products coming down the road, supposedly, according to their CEO. They're coming, I think her words were in quick succession from 2026 and on. So it's going to be a lull here for the next couple of years. I think their EV is still coming in 2025 for the first one, but it's a little bit of a quiet year here for them this year, but it sounds like another refresh is on the way for Pacifica as well. I think Chrysler actually, they have a future. I mean, Stellantis told every brand whenever they took over, when was that now? 2022, 2021. They said, all of you have 10 years. I think it was 2021. You have 10 years to prove your worth. So we have till 2031 for Chrysler to sink or swim. And at that point, if they're not doing really well and justifying their existence, they're going to get the axe, as well every other brand that doesn't put up numbers here by that point in time. So that is when you're going to see a big culling. If none of these brands, have these big turnarounds that everyone's hoping they will, that's when you'll see all that, future ending. Let me see. Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, around 2020, companies cut out sedans in the U.S., but still have vehicles like the Taurus in other places. Why? And is there a resurgence in there maybe? So sedans, it's just a matter of a lack of demand here in the States. Like, for example, we see Ford sedans in China. That's because China buyers still really like sedans, especially ones with big rear seats. Which obviously Ford and Lincoln and companies like that have no problem providing. So it's just buyer preferences. But honestly, outside of China, I feel like sedans are also kind of going away in many other places, in most other places too. I mean, I was actually, I was talking to the Toyota marketing person a little bit this week and asking him his thoughts on sedans as well. And he's seeing that it's pretty stable. I think this is kind of what I heard from Hyundai and others as well in the past, where in the past year or two here, it stopped the decline. Actually, I think it was Honda, maybe I talked about this too with Accord and stuff, where that we saw this decline of sedans for a few years, and then it started to level off. And I think now it's stabilizing around a level where people are like, I really want a sedan and I'm not negotiating on that. I want a sedan, end of story. And they just go for whatever sedans are out there. And I think that there's a stronger support there with that, however many percentage of the market they have there who are like, nope, I'm not moving to an SUV. Like, I'm sticking to a sedan. And I think that maybe caught some of the companies by surprise, that there was people that were that loyal to sedans and they weren't switching over to other vehicle types. And so I don't know about a resurgence, but I think that you will see that the current sedans that are out there have staying power. It might not be a super sexy segment for other companies to come in with a new product and try and compete and get some market share. That might be tough, but I think all the existing players will hopefully have staying power to stick around here now, because I think they're all kind of seeing like, hey, like, we can make these appealing, and these, as long as we do what people are wanting, they're going to still sell. I think the Accord is an excellent example. What did they do for the new generation Accord here? They took a lot of the bones from the prior gen, and they just made it even softer, even more comfortable, even more plush. And I think, the cruiser type of sedan is really the key. I think some companies kind of went a little too sporty. And while that makes sense, because, you think a sedan buyer, a sporty kind of, person, but I think a lot of people still just wanted a Cadillac for, less than Cadillac prices. And there used to be a lot of that. If you look back at history for decades and decades, we kind of lost some of that. And I think, now with the Accord being so soft and comfy, I think that that's going to really, help. And I think also seeing the expansion of all-wheel drive that Toyota has been doing with the all-wheel drive cameras and stuff to kind of give people even less reason to go to an SUV. Like, okay, we get it. You want to have all-weather traction. You don't need to go up to an SUV now. You can get a Camry all-wheel drive. So I think there's some of that, and you will hear my thoughts on Camry that embargo is dropping here this coming week. So stay tuned for my thoughts on the new Camry as well. But, I think that you're seeing that, I don't think it's ever going to explode, at least not for a while, but I think that you will see it's going to just keep plugging away at its percentage and holding strong there, which is good. I'm glad to see that. Let me see. Get back to where I left off here. Mike says, are you excited for the R2 and the R3, or is it a wait and hold your breath moment for Rivian? I think there's some of that. I remember I saw there was some comment I saw out there, and I don't know the financials for Rivian. So it just basically, I'm not going to repeat it because, again, I don't want to repeat false information if it's not legit. But, I saw the consensus out there that they might not even make it to R2 and R3. I mean, they have, again, Amazon backing them and stuff still, but there's still, it seems like, some debate potentially as far as can they actually make it to that launch of those vehicles. But I mean, I think on paper they are very promising and could be very good. I'm still annoyed there's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto when overwhelmingly the majority of new car buyers say they want those features. And especially if you're a startup who's trying to do everything you can to survive, alienating people who, say that is a must-have feature is really dumb, in my opinion, for their, misplaced reasons. The same crap that Chevy's trying to say, like, oh, well, it's better if you don't have CarPlay. It's like, no, it's not. You might think it is, and maybe to a few people who can appreciate that point of view, maybe a few people can, be your cheerleaders for that. But I think most people are just like, yeah, I don't care if it's worse by some metric. I just want to be able to tap like I tap on my phone and use all my phone stuff. End of story. And I mean, that's the brilliance of CarPlay and Android Auto, is it's so wonderfully simple, but it's what everyone wants. And so I think that's, to me, going to hold Rivian back a little bit. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. Tesla's gotten by just fine without it for their whole history. But if you're trying to beat Tesla, I think offering things that Tesla doesn't have is a good strategy. But what do I know? I think potentially they have good potential otherwise. But like for us, I mean, like that's a deal breaker. Like Beth was actually excited about the R2, and I was like, it doesn't have CarPlay. She's like, oh, never mind. Like that's it. No other consideration. Like, and I mean, I'm the same way. I wouldn't want to live without CarPlay either. So I'm in agreement with her there on that. But like that's a real thing. I mean, I've talked to a few other people who actually, a buddy of mine who has another little small YouTube channel called Car Guy 11. He had placed an order or a deposit for an R2 and already canceled it because of that and a few other things. Like R2 has no rear wiper, which I didn't even realize until he pointed that out in the video, which is a dumb move that Hyundai fixed immediately with the Ioniq 5 here. This little refresh is getting the rear wiper and stuff. It's a rear wiper. There's a few other odd things with the R2 that are quirky, not in a good way. But like, there's a lot of the same thing. Like he wanted CarPlay, and it's like there's a lot of people that I think would go for a Rivian if it had CarPlay. So we'll see if they cave or what happens there with that, if they want to stick to their high ground of, being better than CarPlay for whatever reason. That's the only thing about Rivian that kind of grinds my gears a little bit. But I feel like they have enough momentum, enough hype. As long as they can keep the investors coming in to keep them going to those launches, I think they'll be okay and have a future there. Zachary says, what's up, everybody? Scion XB fan here. There you go. V. Mitchell says, two-door import SUVs are as deader than opposed due to the chicken tax. Yeah, well, I guess there would have to be something that gets built here in the States. I mean, same as, 4Runner, or in North America, same as, 4Runner. Because I believe it's the same deal with that. Or no, 4Runner's built in Japan. So yeah, I have to update myself on all the rules of the chicken tax. I know obviously pickup trucks are susceptible, but are SUVs okay? Is that the way it goes? Anyway, regardless, I mean, I think it's just that no one buys two doors as well. Because you have there's the two-door Range Rover Evoque that got brought over. No one bought it. There's been some that have tried in the past. Luke says, rumor has it Detroit Auto Show is going back to January. That has been confirmed. They announced that, yeah, was it a month or two ago now? They did announce, yeah, it is coming back, and I'm excited. Auto shows usually make no sense for me. It probably won't in January either, but I'm so sentimental and nostalgic about a January Detroit Auto Show. I may just go. I'm hoping a car company like brings me out for a reveal or something, and that way they cover the cost so that I'm not losing money going to the auto show. But I'm hoping to go to the auto show in January just because that makes me excited. It's only been a few years that we haven't had it, but I'm a very sentimental, nostalgic person, and so any play on nostalgia is usually pretty effective for me. So yeah, I'm excited for that to come back. And 66, thanks for the put there on Kevin's question. And B. Mitchell says, actually, that would only leave his Douglas if the tsunami hit. You're right, because he wasn't there at the party. So, yes, if that tsunami hit the forerunner of it, it would be Doug, and that's it, which I guess for a lot of car enthusiasts is plenty anyway. But yeah, that's a good point. Sixlick says, at the end of the day, it's not worth the negative effects, longevity on motor, worsened MPGs, etc., to use lower octane fuel than what is recommended by the OEM. Yeah, I generally agree. And most car companies will make it very clear if it is okay to go to a lower octane. Some will just say recommended or, make it a little more looser with the, verbiage versus just saying required. So that usually gives you a little bit of a hint, too, about how strict they are with that. Let me see. Sixlick says they can start a channel where they only review Scion XPs. I'd subscribe to that for sure. He says, of course, we'll probably never be on the same reviewer level as Matt. I mean, who knows? It's not a high bar these days. So YouTube's also been really pushing new channels as well. So you could probably get more views than me pretty quickly if you wanted to actually pursue that. I'd totally watch reviews of variously modified Scion XPs. That'd be fun. And Luke says, my 2020 TLX recommends premium. I only use premium on long highway drives because I noticed it's slightly smoother and peppier, but otherwise 87 runs fine. That's good to hear. I'm glad it works out for you there. Slam Sedan, thanks for joining in. It says, what's going on, Matt? Getting home from work, about to make some burgers for dinner, but tuning in. Well, that's awesome. Sounds good. Thanks for tuning in. Michelle says, by the way, a family member traded in their 2020 Forester for a 2024 MDX Tech. Told my uncle to watch your review on it, and he was sold. Wow, that's great. I'm glad that he found that helpful. That is exactly why I do this. So thanks so much for recommending it to him, too, because that is a really great way to still have the channel grow. It's just word of mouth. If you know someone who's looking for cars and, there's a decent chance that I reviewed something they were interested in, I always appreciate a recommendation because, I'm about, helping people as well. And so that, not only is it helping people, but it helps the channel. And it's, I think word of mouth and the grassroots kind of stuff is really powerful still, even in these days of the algorithm ruling everything. And Kyle says, Matt, did that one live stream of the weekly update do well numbers-wise? If you can tell, it did horribly. It was not well received, so that's why I've never done another one and probably never will. I mean, I know sometimes some of these things take more time than one video to really judge, but yeah, it got more negative comments than most of my videos usually get. So that was a pretty clear to me sense that it just wasn't something that makes sense to do. And even if I did a live, I mean, that would save some time. But it also comes down to like what I'm doing with a weekly update. Because if it's like a weekly update where it's like an auto show week, or there's something where every single thing is a new debut, or I got to go into a bunch of specs and a bunch of details and use a bunch of B-roll and all that, that's when it really gets to be a higher amount of workload as far as typing out the talking points and doing all the editing with all that stuff. But if it's just like a few rumors and it's just like like there's a rumor about a new GTR, and then I can just sit there and talk with a little picture in the corner and just talk like that. I can edit through something like that super fast. So, that's the thing, is not all updates are equal amounts of work. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, I really feel like the channel would probably, it'd also be easier, I think, for the algorithm to figure out like who to market my videos to if there was like one thing. Because I think there's probably some confusion there with the algorithm of like, oh, okay, well, this person loves weekly updates. Let's push a car review to them. And then they offer a car review, and it's like, no, I'm just someone who just likes watching news videos. I don't actually want to see, any of these new car reviews. Then the algorithm says, okay, actually, this video sucks because these people aren't clicking on when we recommend it. And then, it kills that video for people who actually like car reviews. And so I feel like there's some of that. I mean, YouTube typically says to, have your channel focused on one niche. And I would hope that people that like car news also like reviews, and those two things have overlap. But that's another thing I've thought is maybe before I completely quit the weekly updates would be to break it off into a new channel and just do a totally separate channel just for car news. And it would still just be like a once a week upload channel where I just dump the weekly update on there and that's it. But if it gets to the point where the weekly updates are making so little money anyway that I'm not really losing much, that'll probably be my last ditch thing, is be like, okay, let's try putting this on a different channel, see if YouTube pushes it any better, see if it can find viewers any better, being branded as like, this is a news channel, and doing that as a more focused effort. If that, changes anything. It's a fun experiment that I think I will try before I completely bail on the weekly updates. But yeah, it's not looking promising for the weekly updates. I think the only other thing about like doing a new channel would also open up hopefully recommendations to new people that are open to EVs, because I think that's really one of the big problems with this channel is a lot of people are anti-EV, and as I go into the future and more stuff is electrified, I'm going to get more and more people who were longtime fans that the YouTube algorithm is like, oh, Matt has a new car review, let's push it to him. And it's like, oh, wait, that's an EV. And it just kills all of my videos, not because they're bad necessarily, but just because they're going to the wrong audience these days. And I think I need to find a new segment of audience to help with that next level of growth. And I think that maybe breaking it out into a new channel is a good way to do that. I also have been strongly considering doing a separate channel for EVs. But that would eventually leave this channel to just be a rusting husk of what it once was, because then that eventually things will mostly switch over to electric stuff. And then what do I post on this channel? If the news is on one channel and the electric stuff's on another channel, then this channel will just be like a maybe once a month upload for, hey, I found some old car to review that's still powered by gas or something. Again, thinking long term, trying to actually still make this a career for the long term. That would just put this channel in a bad spot. But if, again, this channel is hardly getting any views anyway, leave it as the legacy channel to, have all the old videos of, the good old days of everything before everything got electrified or whatever, and just leave it as that. I mean, that, like I said, I've really, it's amazing the amount of time that I put into thinking about this stuff and researching and watching other YouTube advice videos about, what's the best way to run a channel these days and all these things. And I spend so much time and effort, trying to figure this stuff out. But yeah, I think live streaming weekly updates is seems like it's a bad idea. So I'm going to try some of the other things first before I bail. And let me see. Brian says, we're here for you. I appreciate that support, Brian. It means a lot. Good Stick says the Forerunner review got 30,000 views. I'm not sure which one you're seeing. Mine definitely didn't. Mine got 10,000 views, which was actually less than I was expecting. I didn't expect a ton of views, but like my Tacoma reveal video got like 40 some thousand. So I was hoping for a little more than what Forerunner got. But again, it is what it is. So I just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And just didn't get lucky with that one, unfortunately. Good Stick says smaller cars could solve the traffic jams as they would need less space for each vehicle. Potentially. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers of like back in the 80s whenever everyone was driving a little hatchback and how that changed things when you adjust for similar levels of population, and adjust, because now obviously there's more cars on the road just in general. But I wonder if that made a big difference or not. I'm sure it could have potentially. And Mike says people are making a ton of money on TikTok though, Matt, from 1 minute news videos. I mean, maybe have people shown their earnings? I mean, the people I know who do good views on TikTok that have told me about, the earnings that they make, I don't know. It's still, especially since it's not consistent, since it's really like a hit or miss. It's like you have one thing, it gets 1 million views, and another thing, it gets 20,000 views. It's not dependable, and it just seems like I'd love to be proven wrong. And if there's people making good, solid, reliable money consistently on 1 minute news videos, I'm not opposed to that. I feel like I could probably skim over each news topic in a minute or less and just really hit the highlights, and that's it. And if that is a an actual valuable thing, I'll also look into that. So thanks for bringing that to my attention, Mike. I'll also do more research. Just all my YouTube buddies I've talked to, it seems like, yeah, like it hasn't been that good for them, but yeah, I'll have to look into that some more. And if you have any recommendations for 1-minute news video channels on TikTok there for me to look into, because I'm not really into the whole TikTok ecosystem. So if you have any recommendations for me to look at, I'd be more than happy to check that out. That'd be great to kind of see what I'm up against and see if I can kind of figure out, yeah, the earnings potential of that realistically. And let me see. Trenton Carter, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships there. Really appreciate it. And Jordan, thanks for gifting a membership as well. So glad to see everyone able to grab those. And thanks both of you for your generosity as well. And sorry, Jordan, I missed your other super chat here. He says that with Rivian and Amazon partnership, any companies in talks with the U.S. Postal Service? Was Jeep and Dodge the originals? I'm not sure before the little Jeeps. I mean, I think they probably just used some kind of other like international, kind of style truck or something like that for mail delivery back then, for local stuff. I mean, a lot of them, I think it just, you didn't have as much urban sprawl. And so it was mostly, just like mailmen physically on foot, primarily delivering mail for before the days of, the little Jeeps and the little like what are those things? I can't remember the name of the current mail truck, but those things have been around since like the early 80s. So I don't know my history enough as far as what was before that. But as far as there's a new U.S. Postal Service vehicle that I think came out a year or two ago that for some reason the government decided was the best way to go going forward, even though a bunch of companies put out really great concepts and proposals. I think it was one of those just like they had their golf buddies, do it instead and, award the contract to their favorite pal or something, because that's the only way I can really justify the pick that they picked. You can look it up. Everyone, there was like a hilarious like running joke about how it's just like the most hideous thing out there. So let's look up like new Postal Service vehicle on Google and you'll see it and immediately regret that you ever saw it. So yeah, but thanks Jordan for the super chat there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much locked in as far as what's coming next for the Postal Service. And John Evans Real Estate, thank you so much for a super chat and for your 10th super chat. I really appreciate that. It says, hey Matt, which car would be the funner choice and better daily? Infiniti Q60 Red Sport all-wheel drive, or Kia Stinger GT all-wheel drive, or Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio? Stelvio Quadrifoglio is going to be the most dynamic. So that will be the most fun of the 3. I can say that pretty easily. I mean, it's the fastest of the bunch. It's the best handling of the bunch, amazingly, even though it's the SUV. It's just an alpha SUV. So it's really, really good. And as far as the best daily, I don't know if the Stelvio Quadrifoglio would be the most comfortable of the bunch. That would probably be a pretty close tie between the Infiniti and the Stinger, in my opinion. But I don't think the Stelvio is enough of a downgrade to give up the extra fun of it. If all 3 cars are on the same playing field as far as pricing, I mean, I think you can get the other 2 much cheaper than the Quadrifoglio, but if that's not part of the consideration for you and you're good with all 3 equally, then I would say for most comfort, you're probably better off with the Infiniti or the Stinger. But if or my money between those 3, I'd probably go Quadrifoglio. Stinger is close. Q60 would be fun if you don't, need any extra practicality. But I mean, Q60 was really good too, and I think they're gorgeous looking cars. But whenever you start talking about coupes and stuff, I know you're looking for all-wheel drive there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if it's tough because the Q60 is probably gonna be the more reliable one, but the tech was always just a little iffy as far as like it didn't have CarPlay as quickly as the others and stuff, and it just wasn't as luxurious as the others. If you're looking all-wheel drive, I'd be more tempted by like an S5 or something like that. If you're looking at Q60 stuff like that, but if you're looking for 4 doors though, you just want the most fun. I think Quadrifoglio is still going to be a fine daily. It might not be as reliable as the other 2. That's the only other thing I will say. Assuming that doesn't bother you, and I mean their reports of unreliability are also overblown, I will say. And when you ask actual Quadrifoglio owners, most of them have pretty good luck, it seems, just from my observances, around the internet. But yeah, between those three, I'd probably go Quadrifolio. It's a tough choice, but I'd probably go Quadrifolio. And thank you again for the super chat. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions as well. Let me see, getting back to other questions from members here. Linda says, unless the difference in 87 and 93 is a lot, I go with 93. Personally, if the weekly updates are taking too much time, go bi-weekly or monthly. Yeah, that could be something. The only thing is with those, like, then it's even more outdated, and I feel like then it would really drop off with people being like, wow, like I heard about that a month ago, so that's the thing with news. It's tough. It's like, it really seems like if you're not doing it like in the moment, you're probably missing out on a lot of the interest there. So it's tough. If I had time, or if I just chose to quit doing reviews, I could really do car news well. It's just, I'm not enough people, it'd be fun to, someday if I was again doing better, or just had the money to take the risk of like hiring on a second person to do the news for me or something, and do that as like a new channel and just kind of manage that or something. I think that could be good. And again, I think there's others that have now risen up and are also doing really good, car news videos as well. And it's great to see some of those, filling in those gaps as well. T says, not mentioning Doug again, I forgot about the punishment. You're funny too. Let me see. Jerry's asking, who is Doug? We're talking about Doug DeMuro. V. Mitchell says, Matt, if you're keen on a road trip across Ohio in 2 weeks as a collector car auction in Auburn, Indiana, since you like the older iron, they actually invited me to that. I don't know if it was this year or last year. They've tried to get me to go to that car show a couple of times. And it's just, unfortunately, like, if it were just something I could do for fun for myself, I would go, but no one on this channel really is interested in old stuff, it seems, unfortunately, at least not in any kind of reasonable numbers. But yeah, if I just was being able to be selfish with my time and just do stuff for myself, I would probably, enjoy going to that for sure. It sounds like a really big and really cool show. But I am definitely stretched way too thin to do a road trip for a car show like that, especially Indiana's a good hike for me, so it wouldn't be super easy, unfortunately. But I appreciate the heads up on that coming up soon. That'll be great for those that can go. And Jazz says, do you know when you will be reviewing the Nautilus? I think I'm getting it in June, if I remember correctly. So it'll be coming, I'd say early summer. I have a little bit of a backlog starting to develop, though, because I'm getting like doubled up on press cars every week for like the next 3 months. And it's going to be a little bit of a backlog. So might not see the Nautilus review till July. It'll be a little while, but I'm late to the game anyway, which is another reason why I'm fine, like not rushing that one out super fast. But yeah, I'll be doing one eventually this summer here. I think it should be July. We'll see. Good Stick says, with people complaining about expensive car prices, Suzuki should come back to the US. Their current lineup is very good. The Jimny and the Swift are very good. I'd like to see that, but the thing is, when did Suzuki leave? Was it, I feel like Suzuki left like 2011, 2012. And you would think that, like with their low price stuff, they would have done really well during the recession, and people would have gone and, pick up a Suzuki because they were one of the lowest priced things, but it seemed like that didn't work out. I feel like the recession was a test of that. And if they didn't do well in the recession, then they, probably wouldn't have much hope these days in the US. I could be wrong. I mean, obviously Jimny, yes, could develop a good cult following for sure. But I'm skeptical how truly popular that would be here. But I mean, that is really, the Jimny is, I guess, kind of what I was talking about, a while back here, an hour ago in the live stream, when I was talking about, how it'd be great if Toyota or someone else did some kind of like $20,000 off-roader to compete with a Wrangler at less of a price point, and make it a little smaller and more simple, which I guess would be Jimny. And yeah, it's a shame they can't bring it over here, but I'm hoping the VinFast VF3 actually does make its way here, and kind of is like an electric Jimny in some ways, and kind of gives us that a little bit. Cam Jam says Matt's going to get a mullet. Not going to get a mullet, but yeah, I was at the barbershop last week, and one of the teenagers, I'm going to sound like a real old fart now, but one of the teenagers had like this like mullet style haircut he just had gotten. And I was like, I mean, everyone likes something different. I'm like, man, that stuff's starting to come back. Like, it was like straight out of like the 80s, early 90s kind of look, which I know everything, that's old is new again at some point. But It was interesting to see. I hadn't seen a haircut like that out in the wild myself since I was a kid, so that was interesting for sure. But no mullets for me. I'm safely nixing the mullet. That's for sure for myself. Jazz says, Matt, your wife said on live chat she wants you to shave. You have a handsome face, please. I appreciate that, Jazz. Even my daughter today was like, you need to shave because it's, prickly and rough and stuff. So it just, yeah, I've been just this whole first half or most of April here has been insanely busy, like even more than my usual insanity. So that's why, any kind of self-care just, gets completely thrown out the window for me. So, but I will be taking better care of myself here going forward here after this next week is going to be the last crazy one for the most part. And then I will get back to shaving on a regular basis, I think, most likely. Although I might try that beard oil that Zachary recommended. So we'll see. But let me see. Two says, also, my opinion, Toyota needs to make the 86 a liftback. If you're going to play with the 86 name, then play to the idea. Also, it stands out from the BRZ. That would be a great idea. And I think as we've seen, like, with Dodge, with the new Charger going to go to the liftback thing, I think that's a great way to combat the SUV migration as well. And I totally agree. That would be great. And maybe they will do that for a next generation or something, especially if they're going to split off from Subaru. It sounds like potentially with the rumors, if they do a new car, it might not be with Subaru involved. And then that could give them some more freedom to really, pursue that 86 thing a little bit more sincerely, go back to an inline motor and all that kind of stuff. And I think that could be a great opportunity to introduce that. I thought that, there's that rumor about like a four-door 86 kind of thing that could potentially be a liftback as well, if I remember correctly. We'll see, but I totally agree with you. And let me see. Brian says, I've been watching since 2014, back when you sold the 2013 BRZ. Crazy. Yeah, that was a big deal back then, and still miss that car to this day. Six Lick says, I miss the Lincoln Continental so much. It's the one American luxury sedan I really wanted when it was available. Yeah, they were great. I think the problem with the Continentals, they just didn't make it big enough. It needed to have a really big back seat and a really big trunk, and they just kind of fumbled the back half of the car, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's great, and we have I can't remember the username, but there's a regular commenter on here who has one and really loves it. But it's just, I think, for fleet users and all that. I mean, I have started to see some Continentals that are being used, for, the black car kind of service stuff. But, I think a lot of them would, they all went up to SUVs because they just needed that cargo space and all that. But it's really a shame. I think if they would have made the Continental, like even the size of like a Genesis G90, something like that, a little bit bigger, I think that could have been enough. I think the G90 is now basically what a Lincoln Continental could have been or should have been. I kind of said this in my G90 review a couple of years ago. I haven't done the brand new version, but I think Genesis has taken up that mantle, and that is what the new G90 is. And for anyone who loves the Continental, I'd say check out the G90. Trenton Car Guy says, someone forgot to tell Dodge that sedans were on the decline, though that could be because of the crazy engines in them. Absolutely. I think the Charger was a real outlier in so many ways. And I think, this idea that you can have this ancient vehicle and have it grow in sales every single year, the older it gets, it's completely counterintuitive to everything that everyone has seen and observed and known about the car market for years. And it was really amazing to see. And we will see with this next generation sedan how that goes. And I mean, Dodge definitely got the memo about large cars, because, man, that Charger 4-door is huge. I mean, it is, I can think someone said it's longer than an S-Class by like a comfortable margin, and it's like enormous. And so there will be no hurting hopefully for cargo space and backseat space in that thing. We will see. Let me see. Six Lick says, an 86 fan, I definitely agree. The heritage and the formula changed to some degree with the release of the twins there in 2012. However, the GR Corolla is always an option. Yeah, I mean, GR Corolla is also, I think really probably the truest, obviously Toyota being a completely Toyota effort. And I think it's one of the reasons why the GR Corolla is amazing, even though I love Supra and GR86 equally as much in my opinion, but I think GR Corolla definitely has that unique appeal for that reason too. Let me see. The Toyota is aware of the 86 Legacy truck and car guy says they made the Torino edition of the GR86. I do agree that it being a hatch would have been cool. Yeah, I totally agree. And two says, hey guys, gotta go, family emergency. Sorry to hear that too. Hope everything's okay. And absolutely, thanks for joining in. And you're probably already gone at this point, but sorry to see you go. But hope everything's okay with the family there. And Swishy Shaft, thanks for joining in. And let me see. B. Mitchell's saying as far as the chicken tax goes, 2-door is a truck and 4-door is a car. Interesting. Okay. Gotcha. Well, then I guess that is, definitely going to be a hindrance for this 2-door truck. So thanks for the info there. Swishy Shaft says, hey, Matt, I remember last week you said you might have to get a full-time job doing something else. You might want to look at Car Edge. They help people buy cars, and they have a YouTube channel as well. Yeah. I think I mentioned this in a past live stream a while back. Car Edge, I could look into that. I don't love the way they do the YouTube channel, to be totally honest. And I mean, I haven't checked it super closely recently, but it seemed like in the past they were doing a lot of the clickbaity, kind of deceptive, in my opinion, videos about, the car market collapsing and all these like just flat out like wrong statements and impressions being put out in videos and stuff. Maybe they've changed from that, but I remember seeing that and being like, oh, what the heck, Car Edge, and like kind of writing them off whenever I saw that. But I will have to check back in and see if they are still doing that approach or not. Luke says, this is Antisocial Doug, and I'm going to show you the quirks and features of being alone in the 4Runner reveal. Yeah, I think, so there was a few people that got, who needed either special, accommodations as far as how they needed the vehicle, or they needed more time with the vehicle, that were able to show up the weekend ahead of time and I guess have more time with the vehicle or whatever. So there was some of that as far as that's a good one though, Luke. But I think that was it. I think, I'm not sure how much time Doug needs to do his stuff typically, but I think there might be some of that. Just the fact that he's, again, one of the biggest YouTubers out there. So, I think car companies are more willing to, give him whatever he needs in order to get the video done, because it's, very important for him to cover those things. So, I think there's some of that as well. But yeah, it'd be nice to see him, stick around, because there's been other times where like people are like, oh yeah, like Doug was at something and I was at the same thing, but I didn't even know. No one knew he was there. And, and he said in his own videos, like he doesn't go to the dinners. He doesn't stay at the hotels. It's part of his whole thing that he thinks gives him some kind of difference, which again, I will just leave it at that. But, and so that means he's just not around as much because he's busy doing something different. Anyway, Zachary says, I'm on Team Weekly Update as a new channel. I'll subscribe to both. I appreciate that, Zachary. Yeah. And Jordan says, your weekly update videos gives us questions to ask upon. Don't change. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, like everything, I'm going to keep trying to make everything work as best as I possibly can. But yeah, if I'm pruning the channel to optimize performance, Weekly Update's going to be the first thing to go. But again, I'll try a different channel first. It's really going to come down to how the next month or two of Weekly Updates goes. If they keep consistently getting like 5,000 views or so, then yeah, I'm going to cut that off pretty quickly, because then it really is a waste of time. So I'll have to see. But fingers crossed. Hopefully we're just in some kind of lull for whatever reason. I don't know why the Weekly Update started tanking, but hopefully I can reverse that course as well. Let me see. Vishal says, with the new GX coming out, what's the future of the LX? Also, is anything coming of that LF1 limitless concept they had a while back? I don't remember the limitless one. Is that like the Goldwing SUV thing, or was that the sedan? Because they did say that like the stuff we saw in Tokyo back in the fall, that is like, going to foreshadow a production version, I believe. And they're trying to, kind of reverse engineer Teslas as far as how simplified everything is with a gigacasting and all that. And I think that one Lexus concept will be the first to debut, some type of gigacast kind of production process and things like that, supposedly. But as far as the future of the LX, I think LX, they're fine with it, just, the same way they were fine with Land Cruiser and last gen LX, of doing tiny little numbers And, again, the US is not really the focus there for that anyway. So it's one of those things kind of like Genesis G90 and things like that, where they sell like none of them here, but they have it already in other markets and it's not too bad to bring over here for whatever reason. So they bring it over and let the chips fall where they may, so I think it's one of those kinds of things. But I think, yeah, GX has always done better sales than LX anyway. So that's going to continue for sure, no matter what. But I think, yeah, GX is definitely more compelling and really makes you question. Yeah, even if money were no object, if they're the same price, I'd rather have the GX over the LX easily. And I'm looking forward to spending a week with the GX here. I think it's in May or June, and I'll have a follow-up video on that. But GX is fantastic. I absolutely love that vehicle. It's one of the few like trucky SUVs where I'm like, I'm not a truck guy. I don't need a body on frame SUV. I would probably never own one. But if I were to own one, a GX is one of the ones that I'm like, yeah, like I could actually, be cool with this. This would be kind of nice. B. Mitchell says the USPS Grumman LLV is as old as Matt. That's the name I was thinking of. Thank you. I knew it was something with a G, but I didn't want to try and go out on a limb too much there. So anyway, yeah, the Grumman I think actually goes back to the mid 80s. So it's actually a little bit older than me. It's just crazy. And Trent Gargay says that the USPS is a government entity. They have to contract out companies to bid on the next vehicle. They can't simply go to an auto manufacturer and buy something. Yeah, and it's older than that. Yeah. So yeah, I think they went with obviously whoever was the lowest bid, and maybe that's part of why the styling is as bad as it is on this new vehicle coming out. I don't know, but there was some good options I remember seeing whenever they had to like publicly put out there like the options that were being presented, and there was a lot that seemed a lot better for sure. Let me see. The Good Stick says, with Tesla dropping the self-driving feature to $100 a month, expect more people to do dumb things. I didn't know they had dropped the price of it. Yeah, I've recommended my own friends and family as well, like stay away from Teslas. I know it's probably insane and Tesla fans will probably be super upset about it, but it's just that people are not properly educated about what full self-driving is not. And obviously it's marketed completely wrong. So you give people the wrong idea. I don't blame people for having the wrong idea because they are told this feature that you're paying for is called full self-driving. And even if you say it's in beta or whatever, like people are going to take that and run with it. And so I won't go on a Tesla rant about full self-driving, but yeah, I would recommend people to be very cautious around Teslas, especially since it seems like their owners are more keen to try those limits of those systems more than others as well. And Trent Gargay says the LLV is at least 40 years old. Yeah, it definitely, I think it is. I can't remember if it was 82 or 83 those go back to, but yeah, definitely older than me by a few years. Cam Jam says, what does Tuesday consist of down there in the basement? I assume it's Hot Pockets and pizza rolls heated by the boiler. Yeah, that's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe I can throw down some marshmallows every once in a while for dessert and you kind of roast them there. I don't know. V. Mitchell says that auction actually has a Tesla Cybertruck on the docket. Might be your chance to do an ad hoc review. So I'm not sure what auction you're talking about there. But as far as, I know there's others that have rented Cybertrucks to do reviews on. I mean, I know it's popular. If someone offers me a Cybertruck, I will do it, but I'm not going out of my way to review it. And it's like, it's going to be one of the most challenging vehicles to review unbiasedly because I know the vehicle's flaws. It has flaws, and they've already been presented clearly by other, reviewers already. And, just for that reason alone, I'm going to be like, well, the steering is super slow and laggy and a flawed system. The, design of it is problematic in various ways. There's a lot of stuff that everyone already knows. And so I don't really know if me reviewing a Cybertruck would actually really contribute anything to, anyone who's looking for information on one of those. I think everything you could say about a Cybertruck has already been said. So that's another reason why I feel like there's no reason for me to do one, to be totally honest. Yeah, I mean, if someone offers one, I'm sure it'll be good to do just for views. But yeah, I'm not excited about this. My sister actually just sent me a video of one circling a parking lot in our nearby little shopping area. And was like, yeah, this dude like circled a few times, couldn't find a parking space for his giant Cybertruck. and then just left. Or he was just trying to like peacock around the popular shopping area and see how many eyeballs he could get. I don't know which he was doing, but she was just like, this thing is so dumb, and like, it's just like not into it as well. But yeah, still not a fan of the Cybertruck personally. And Zachary says, I do those haircuts for teens all the time with the mullet thing. So many dudes don't really have the hair to pull that stuff off, but try anyway. Nice. That's funny. I'm sure you have some stories. It's about times you just got to like bite your tongue and like, here you go. That's funny. Anyway, sorry, Jordan, I missed your super chat there. He says, when the lease is up on the Mach-E new car, I mean, something Beth and I talk about every once in a while. It's really going to come down to what our financial situation is like at that point in time. The lease is up in, the summer of 2026. And at that point in time, who knows? I might not be doing this full time anymore. Maybe things will be great. Maybe we'll be, looking at a used CX5 for 20 grand. I have no clue. But it's, there's lots of good options. It'll be interesting to see how some of these other options we're hearing about, a lot of big companies coming out with all their new stuff in 2026. Subaru is going to have their whole new wave of EVs starting in 2026. Toyota's new stuff's coming in 2026. Nissan, a bunch of companies, like 2026 seems to be the number for everybody. I don't know why, but like Honda's EVs coming in 2026. Beth, I think, really loves the EV thing, so I think we'll most likely try and stick to that if we can within our budget, whatever that ends up being. But I think she likes the Volvo EX30, just that doesn't have a gauge cluster. I mean, that's not a deal breaker, although I would really prefer to have one, but that could be a potential option. So yeah, there's a few things, but she really likes the Mach-E, and she even mentioned, she's like, if it makes sense, at the end of the lease period, she's not opposed to just keeping the Mach-E as well, which is rare because, even with her Mercedes, at least the first one, she was excited to get back into a new one, and then, custom order one and all that. So I think, the fact that she's, interested in, considering keeping the Mach-E is also, noteworthy. She really likes it that much. And so maybe we will actually stick with it longer than the lease period as well, depending on, again, where it's at, where it's depreciated. If we can, I don't remember what the buyout price is, but if the buyout price is, less than what they're worth at that point in time, or if we can, pick up a new one or another used one for way cheaper or something like that, maybe that's another thing, is if, our buyout price is crazy, but we can pick up a similar, used one for way less money. We can get a super cheap one that way or something. Maybe that's something we do too. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's all going to come down to what our budget is like, and be very interesting to see how the next 2 years play out. Let me see. So, talking about, I see 66 talking about the Toronto package. Let me see. He says, however, the performance package upgrade for $1,500 is super worth it. Brembo brakes and Sachs dampers. What a deal. Yes. And I will actually be talking about that pretty soon at the end of this month, because I currently have a BRZ TS press car. And if you know the pricing of that, you can probably already piece together what my take is going to be on that. But it's more than that for the TS version, which doesn't really give you anything outside of the same stuff the performance package gives you. So, yeah, the GRD6 is definitely the way to go over the BRZ TS. That is the real joke. Even the Toronto edition is still cheaper than a TS, and I think arguably you get more differentiation from the regular car with the Toronto edition versus the TS. So even the Toronto comes out as a pretty good deal in my mind if you're into the look. Trent Car Guy says that's true, but probably enough to fool a lot of the kids nowadays. Was with the stuff there. I mean, I like the Toronto personally. I think Toronto is kind of a cool combo, but again, I go for kind of the movie homage kind of things and stuff like that. So to me, it's kind of cool. But I can appreciate, if you don't like, the vinyl package and stuff, it's not for everyone for sure. Let me see. So Cam Jam says Car Edge equals new Scotty. Again, I have to look back at Car Edge's other stuff, and I don't want to sit here and talk smack on channels. I mean, clearly Scotty even is very popular and is laughing all the way to the bank with his clickbait. So, I mean, hey, it works, and I mean, I'm pretty sure he's in a much better financial situation than I am right now. So, who's the real winner here? I mean, like I said, it's it is what it is. I guess the price of integrity, but it's just. yeah, there's other, it's not even just, car rage. I've been seeing so many. I got pretty close to doing a rant video about like just begging to like for people to quit watching fake car news videos. There's so much just blatant lies, like giant quotes being like Toyota saying that like we're done with EVs, and like stuff like Mary Barra saying like we're not doing EVs anymore, which like, she has never said ever, ever, ever. And like that is like the title, that's the thumbnail, is like just a complete lie, like not even like clickbait, not even like a stretch of the truth, or trying to be a creative way to dance around something. Like, no, it's just a straight up lie. And I guess people just, if integrity is a flexible thing, it doesn't mean anything to you, then great. But like people click this stuff, and I guess it's because again people are just like, holy crap, what, she said that? No, she didn't say that. But people click on it and they reward those videos. Scotty wouldn't be where he is today if people didn't click on his rest in peace videos and crap like that. It's you vote with your views. And like I've always said, I can only do this channel because people support it. And likewise, people like Scotty and other clickbait stuff only exists because people support it. And again, I'm not saying all these channels are all bad. I'm sure they have maybe some value in other ways. And again, I'm not here to talk smack, but it's just one of the things. It's kind of like dealers that do markups. Like I hope that people remember the dealers that do markups, the dealers that treated them crappy. In the same way, I hope that you viewers remember the channels that tricked you, that lied to you, that misled you, that wasted your time with crappy videos that didn't deliver on what was promised, or again just duped you into clicking on something that isn't real, or even worse yet, lied to you with blatant lies and passed it off as the truth. And if you didn't fact check it, or you just took it as fact, and then later found out something wasn't true, like remember that, please, and don't reward those people in the future. These people only exist, and this doesn't go for just car YouTube or YouTube in general. This goes for everything in life. It's everything is based on your clicks. Your clicks are the most powerful thing you have these days, at least as far as the internet goes. It's a power that I think should be wielded with power, and with the idea that like what I am doing matters with what I click on. And I think that we could really change the internet for the better if we just kind of put down a firmer foot against some of this stuff and voted with our clicks that this stuff isn't stuff we wanted to tolerate. But unfortunately, there's also a lot of people that just are gullible and get tricked into stuff, and people have been exploiting gullible people since the beginning of time. And so there's some of that's going to always remain no matter what. If there is someone that's able to be tricked, someone's going to do it to trick them and make a buck off of them. It's just unfortunately human nature, right? Anyway, we're at the 2-hour mark. I know we are behind here. I know we got a couple more super chats here, and I'll try and get through the last other member questions without getting too ranty here, and then I will sign off. But let me see. Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, if you could produce and create vehicles for the US, which would you create, EV, hybrid, or ICE, or all three? I think all three is the way to go. I think Toyota has the right solution there. I think there are different needs for different people. I think that all three have merit. I think that the only thing I will say is there's really no downside to a plug-in hybrid like we were seeing with Lamborghini, and we're seeing with, yes, there's extra weight, but and I'd say make an exception for a Miata and GR86s and vehicles that where low weight is really important. But outside of those few, weight figures aren't that important for the average vehicles, especially for average consumers. And so I think that for the things that have amazing sounds and stuff like that, do a plug-in hybrid, do some type of hybrid thing. But I think that pure ICE is fine. But I think if I were calling the shots with a car company or something, I would nix the purely ICE stuff, because I think that there is no downside to a hybrid for basically anybody. Especially we've seen with Toyotas and Fords and others that have these hybrid systems and taxis that run 400, 500,000 miles without issue, without battery replacements for most of them too. It's worth mentioning, or cheap battery replacements for those hybrid batteries and stuff. There's no downside there. So I think that hybridizing everything, like we're seeing with Toyota, that seems like the direction they're going. Like Honda is going that direction. I think that's makes the most sense. Everyone who wants a gas engine at least gets a little hybrid thing attached to it to give them some kind of attempt at efficiency. And then, otherwise, plug-in hybrids and EVs for people who can live with those types of vehicles. But I think keeping the regular hybrid not requiring a plug is important for people who, are apartment dwellers, people who street park, who don't have the luxury of being able to charge at home every night, which is the only way that plug-in hybrids and EVs make sense, in my opinion, still to own. At least if you're, the average amount of patience for a person, and you're not willing to inconvenience yourself too much. I think regular hybrid's great, but I think you can make that super efficient. We've seen that with Priuses and stuff, getting 50 plus MPG. You can do that without a plug. And I think that would drastically improve, emissions and things like that, just hybridizing all that stuff to that kind of a level. Thank you, Jordan, for the super chat. And also the other super chat says, is AI bleeding into the lies of car news? I don't know how many of those videos are AI generated. I don't click on them myself, again, out of principle. So I don't know if, they are AI generated, or if I know some of them that I've seen, I believe it was some of the Car Edge ones, or some of the others from these other channels like that, have these old guys that look like they're screaming in every thumbnail. It seems like a lot of those are real people talking. So I don't know if it's an AI thing necessarily. I think it's just, people realize that lies work. I mean, the Mark Twain quote is, what is it? Like, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth even has time to put its pants on and get out the door. It's just the appeal of lies is always going to be sexier than the truth most of the time. So I think you don't need AI for that. That is just human nature. And it has been since the days of Mark Twain, when this was still a problem. So a problem on steroids now with the internet. And anyway, last few member questions here. Thank you again, Jordan, for the super chats tonight. Trent Gargay says, I see plenty of spoiled kids making dubious financial decisions in the pursuit of clout and likes. Yes, there's definitely a lot of that. 66 says, I am never going to name my future kid Doug. Maybe I'll name a fish Doug, though, or a hamster. There you go. I see, before this Doug, I mean, I always thought of Doug, the kid in the 90s Nickelodeon show. That was like the Doug to me. And then now we have Doug DeMuro being even more popular than Nickelodeon Doug, I think, probably. And 66 says, I remember watching one of Doug's vids where he reviewed a Hyundai N. He prefaced the video by saying, while gritting his teeth, that he did not accept any accommodations from Hyundai. Yep, that is his thing, and he has been sticking to it. I could get into a whole video rant about the flawed nature of that being a moral high ground, but I won't. And the good stick says the normal Highlander will probably be killed off and be replaced by the Crown SUV, and the Grand Highlander will be the new through a midsize SUV. I don't know. According to Toyota, when I asked them about this on the Grand Highlander launch last year, and they said that at least at that time last year, they see Highlander as having a unique spot, for people who want a lower price point. Because he's like, keep in mind, Grand Highlander starts with XLE, starts higher up already. You can get lower trims of the Highlander. That is important. So for the lower cost buyer, Highlander is still the way to go. And obviously, they've sustained themselves on Highlander being still a really well-selling 3-row for a long time. Not everyone needs either the extra increase in size to Grand Highlander and the extra leg room. Some people are just content with regular Highlander. As far as Crown SUV, I mean, you have to wait until June for my thoughts on that vehicle, unfortunately, when that embargo drops. But, Crown SUV is different than Highlander. There's a lot of key differences. I mean, you can just, look at them and, kind of piece together stuff. Just even based, I did my little first walk around of the Crown Signia back in the fall. You can watch that video for some of my thoughts there on it. But they're different vehicles. I mean, again, I know what Toyota's really slicing and dicing every little niche they can here, but I think that Highlander and Grand Highlander still have enough differentiation there, to make both of them, have a place. Six Lick says he paid for his own hotel, flight, food, air, oxygen, water, clothes. It was pretty strange for what's supposed to be a professional review video. It seemed like he was angry almost while saying it. He must have had some interesting encounter or something before filming that. I hadn't seen that. Was that on the recent one? I don't know which N you're talking about. Was it the new one, the 5N, or are we talking like Veloster or Elantra? I'm not sure. This Kona enthusiast says just now making it. What do you think of the new Ioniq 5N? I am very excited about it. It's one of my most cars I'm looking forward to this year. But unfortunately, I was not invited on the media launch here that happened this week for it. So my review on it will be coming sometime later this summer, I'm guessing. Unfortunately, it's going to be a while. Michelle says, Matt, I saw a late 90s Mercury Mountaineer driving around today. It was amazing as I haven't seen one in years. Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in a long time either. That's it's a fun name I haven't heard about in a while. And Sixlick says, Matt, do you think you'd be down to start a Matt Maran Motoring Discord server for subscribers? I'd be open to that for sure. I mean, it'd be something even I would like that for a couple of different reasons. I'd love to have a place where you guys can just chat amongst yourselves as well, without going back and forth on a member post or something like that. So I think that'd be a cool thing to do. I have to research how to do that. I'm sure it's not that hard, but I have no clue how to set that up. So I do need to look into that. I will add that to my list of things to do though for members. I think that would be a cool way to add a new, nice perk there for membership. And that'd also be great just to, again, make it easier for people to kind of like, interact with me a little bit more, quickly and more one-on-one with, follow-ups and stuff. I wouldn't be in it all the time. Because even unfortunately, I make my own friends wait a few hours sometimes to even respond to a text because I'm just always so busy. And I don't really pull out my phone a whole lot throughout the day. So, it'd be something I'd pop in, a couple times a day maybe or something like that. But I wouldn't be able to be super active personally. But I'd love to see, some discussions in there and all that, and that'd be cool. So, I will make a note of that here. And thanks for asking that towards the end, so I can make notes here once I sign off. And I will look into that as something to potentially add here in the next, month or two. That'd be cool. KJ says, got my Z06 out for the first time. The car's insane. I want to hit that break-in period. That is awesome. I'm very jealous of your Z06 ownership, and hope you enjoy that thing to the fullest, especially once that break-in period is over. That's going to be awesome. You'll have a very fun year here. And Jordan, I say another super chat here says, Aston Martin struggling after Ford split. I think Aston Martin was doing pretty well. They were struggling the past few years, but now they seem like they've got some new investment and stuff coming in to, I think, help them to be better going forward. So I think Aston Martin seems to be, in a pretty decent place, and hopefully they continue to do okay. I think, and I think they're better off now than they ever were, pre-Ford split, to be totally honest. Even the Ford thing, when Ford picked them up, it was kind of like they were in a rough spot even back then, so I think that, Ford certainly helped kind of get them back on their feet a little bit, but I think they have definitely taken off and ran, ever since that split. So I think it's been for the better, honestly. Let me see. Cam Jim says, have you ever ridden a jet ski? I know you're in pits, so not much water. I did rent a jet ski. It's actually back, I think it was right, I was like 16 or 17, rented a jet ski. It was the only time I've ever been on one, but I had a blast. I loved it. And from that point forward, I was like, I'm going to have a jet ski someday. We will see about that, because again, I don't live near any water that I really love jet skiing in, but maybe someday. It was always a dream to maybe have a little, house by the water, at some point. But as time has gone on, that seems like more and more of a hilarious impossibility, unfortunately, given current situation. So we will see. But jet skis seem like they're a blast from the one experience I've had. I'd love to do more. And Ivana, thanks for joining in. Says the green on that Benz was fantastic on Beth's C300. It was really cool. She definitely was sad to see that one go. And let me see. I apologize. I'm gonna have to skip some of the non-member questions here, but it is well over the 2-hour mark, so I gotta get going. Let me see. Trent Carter says, have a good week, everyone. See you next week. Sixlick says, thank you for taking your time and going beyond the 2-hour mark. Have a great night, Matt. Absolutely. Always happy to chat with you guys. I'd chat until I passed out here if I could, but got other things I always gotta do, even at 11 o'clock at night. I still got stuff I gotta do before I go to sleep, so I gotta get to it. But thank you all so much. I see Cam Jump says my family has a 2004 Mountaineer with 270,000 miles on it. That's awesome. And Sixlick says, do you think I can email you? I know the Savage East guys that does that for a Patreon running the Discord server. Absolutely. Yeah, feel free to send me an email. All my contact info, email or otherwise, is always in the description of every video. So reach out to me in whatever way is most convenient for you. And that'd be great if you have any info you could provide there about the Discord server. That would be great. I really appreciate that, actually. That anything that can save me a little bit of time, I very much appreciate. So thank you, Sixlicks, for offering that. And so Jordan says, see you next Saturday. We will. I'm going to try Sunday next week, and just like how I ran this poll, it's funny as time has gone on here for Saturday versus Sunday. It's now a dead heat, 50% on Saturday, 50 for Sunday. So it's really split. So we will try Sunday next week, and I will see. I will leave the poll running the whole time again next week, and see if it still is a 50-50 split. And see what happens there. But really inconclusive with the poll here tonight. So I don't know which way to go, clearly. And it seems like it's divided. So we'll see. But I think I'm going to plan on Sunday for next week here. And then we will reassess after that and see where we go. But I will be back next weekend for another live stream. But thank you all so much for tuning in on this one. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend here and a great week going forward. Stay tuned for Toyota stuff, Land Cruiser and Camry reviews this week. If you're a Toyota fan, you'll enjoy those. And anyway, thank you very much for all of you for hanging out here. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. And stay tuned for some fun stuff here coming up here in the next few weeks.